with 5 properties. What makes this transaction suspicious is that Casimir made a $100,000 cash deposit on the property. The total cost of the property is about $273,000. Compounding the situation is that a contractor, who is also a political financier of Casimir, is the one developing the minister's newly acquired Cap Estate property. This same contractor was awarded a multi-million-dollar contract for rehabilitation work done on the Darren Sammy cricket ground in preparation for World Cup cricket, as well as numerous other contracts in the constituency of Grosley. The allegations being leveled against the minister is that he has received kickbacks from the contractor for the Cap Estate development in return for the awarding of multi-million-dollar contracts around the constituency. Has Casimir filed these developments with the Integrity Commission? Prime Minister Philip Pierre claimed that he would have a zero tolerance for corruption in his cabinet, although he has ignored numerous glaring examples of corruption amongst his cabinet colleagues. Will this be another situation that Philip Pierre blindly ignores? St. Lucians deserve answers. Kingston and Philip Pierre, Pabo.
I want to challenge them. Who has done more for Soufre from Dalso and François and now Emma for the people?
G6 Production.
Hey, Soufre, Fosseja, Tansa, Aaron, tout le monde, Tansa, me connaître Shinum, Herod he best la. I know a lot of man, but Herod is the best one. Me connaître Shinum, Herod he best la. C'est lui qui best la, c'est lui qui best la. Listen, check the field, check the square. Herod not going nowhere. Take a walk by the waterfront police station, like the number 1. That bitch back, look at that. Boy, you not seeing that if you say Herod must go Ubuze, comme un coup de poteau. Me connaître Shinum, Herod he best la. I know a lot of man, but Herod is the best one. Me connaître Shinum, Herod he best la. C'est lui qui best la.
Malwat. Why them Lucians so make them this?
Suipui. Some 2.5% HCSL thing is a tax vibe.
So what that have to do with people getting meg? But just now, to me them people paying VAT already.
Exactly. The tax is calculated on the cost of goods. So one time, the price go increase, Uma. The Lucians end up paying more than 15%.
Mama!
Gasa, just imagine $100 go buy less groceries. People getting poor. Things like rent and utility bills go also increase, Gasa.
Real Malawi vibe?
All them things the people doing to stay healthy, like gym, healthy eating, and safety and security, go be harder to get because people ain't have money.
Partner, if them people ain't have enough money, they ain't go have leftover food for us to eat. The bins go be empty. Wow!
Things real happening to them Lucians. Look out for us again soon. We go show you all more.
St. Lucia is at a crossroads. Mismanagement, incompetence, and rising crime under the Philip J. Pierre administration have left us all struggling. But under Alan Chasney's leadership, our country flourished. Taxes were lowered, 17 health centers were upgraded, the OKE hospital opened, over $12 million in hospital bills were wiped clean, lifting a burden off of our people. Construction of the state-of-the-art St. Jude Hospital began. The forensic lab was reopened. Homicides were 25% lower than they are today. New schools were built, 30% of our roads rehabilitated, and sports facilities across the country received major upgrades, empowering our youth. He successfully led us through the COVID-19 pandemic, winning global recognition for St. Lucia's top care management. Alan Chasney, strong leadership to save our St. Lucia.
Life in St. Lucia has become unbearable. Every day, we feel the crushing weight of a government that's out of touch with the struggles of its people. They've collected millions in taxes on fuel, leaving us paying more for gasoline, cooking gas, kerosene, and diesel. And as if that wasn't enough, The health and security levy has made everything more expensive, adding an additional 2.5% to the cost of goods and services. Bus fares have gone up, bread costs more, electricity, water, food, internet, even your mobile credit, it all costs more. For many St. Lucians, their paychecks don't stretch like they used to. Meanwhile, the government has reduced subsidies.
My Flabo! This is going to be a very, very interesting live, a very unique one at that. But you know we must always start our proceedings as we welcome our wonderful people to the constituency of Grozily. As if many of you did not know, our wonderful UWP candidate, Marcella Johnson, will soon be launching her office in this constituency this week. So I urge you to follow the United Workers' Party's Facebook page, Miss Marcella Johnson's Facebook page, as well as her Instagram page for more details upon these proceedings. So now I would like to ask everyone in this room to stand as we now go through our national anthem. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I ask that you stand once again with us as we position ourselves in reverence as we welcome the Lord into our midst. If you are Catholic, feel free to sign yourselves. Father Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all the information that we are receiving that may shed light into the dark thoughts of many upon this island. Father, we thank you for our political leader who's clearing the air on so many speculations. Father, we wish everyone safe journeys as they make it to this live, those who are tuning in, those who are listening from the diaspora. Thank you, Father, for every waking moment that you give us in allowing us to be the change, to right the wrong, and do what is right in this nation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You may be seated. Once again, my Flabo. I am Senator Joshua Harrow. Many of you know me. Many of you have seen me and interacted with me. I will be your host for this lively proceedings. And I have a big smile on my face because, man, this parliament this week was so interesting. It brought so much to light. And I want to give a big thanks to the IMF for telling us the truth. You understand? Because many of you thought we were just making noise, but we were telling you the truth. What's done in the dark will always come to the light. All right, my Flabo? Now, I will be beginning this proceedings with a speech discussing this budget as well as how it impacts my young people. Because my brothers and sisters, when it comes to the cost of living and inflation in this nation, this Labour government has shown you exactly who they are. Their plan this year is simple. Take more from you and pretend to care. They give with one hand, but they take even more with the other. Instead of adding more zero-rated essential goods to ease your burden, what have they done for you? Instead of strengthening critical services like school feeding programs, which even the hardest times leaders such as the wonderful Auntie Gail defended, they have chosen to strip away support from the most vulnerable. They imposed a 2.5 health and security levy, claiming that it was for health and security. But brothers and sisters, the only thing Labour is securing is their own pockets. Labour doesn't build bridges, they build burdens. This 2.5 health and security levy now touches almost every part of life: groceries, transportation, electricity bills, Everything costs more under this administration. No wonder they're called labor. Labor pains. Bread is more expensive. Transport is higher. Utilities, a monthly struggle. And they boast about a minimum wage that even the business sector cried and said it's going to cripple their profits. But let's not be fooled. A minimum wage without dignity is polished poverty. Now picture this, a young man or a young woman from Soufrière. They work hard, they wake up early, and they take 2 buses just to get paid $1,200 a month. And mind you, this administration has done no development for the South. So obviously they have to come to the North to seek employment. And guess what? Let me break it down for you. Some of them are paying $400 or $500 in rent. That's if they have a roommate. Over $200 for transport. Over $600 for meals. And then what happens after that? Nothing. Nothing. I haven't even talked about electricity or Wi-Fi or any of these other bills. But you already see that they're left with nothing. God help them, let alone if they get sick. Their nearest hospital is what, St. Jude? Now let me ask you this question. What kind of leadership forces its young people to choose between eating and keeping the lights on? This budget could have been a chance to build dreams. Instead, Labour drafted another blueprint for disappointment. Their new motto should be waste more, deliver less. Civil servants fare no better. Inflation rose by 13%. Salaries rose by only 6%. That's a 7% loss of real income. And outside the government payroll, it's even worse. Those working in hospitality, retail, and services, they carry the full weight of rising prices and stagnant wages. And while you sacrifice labor waste. Halls of Justice fiasco, $1 million in designs wasted. Rodney Bay Road project, borrowing $13 million to fix a $15 million project. Madness, I tell you. Orange Grove Mall, preferring expensive rental from friends instead of saving taxpayer money. Corruption in broad daylight. So if someone keeps wasting your money and making your life harder, can they ever claim to love the people? I want that to sit and marinate with many of you who've been in relationships before and feel like you wasted your time and your money. How did that make you feel? That is what's happening to this nation. And now when the youth, and I say yes, the same youth they have trapped in hardship, find the courage to speak out, what happens? We are chastised and mocked and told to stay silent, told to wait our turn. Labour loves youths, silent and suffering. But come election time, suddenly youth are the leaders of tomorrow. Suddenly youth are the heartbeat of the nation. Suddenly youth are invited on boat rides like cheap distractions and false affections. A boat ride while they drown you in debt, inflation, and broken dreams. Boat rides cannot fix broken futures. How can you trust leaders who silence your voice but chase your vote when it's convenient? You see, the Bible says, and it warns us in the book of Revelation, and I love this verse, because many of you will say, I see where he's coming from. It says, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of a dragon. Now, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me go back. I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon. That sounds familiar. Don't we have a dragon slayer in Castries Central by the name of Rosh Clark? I feel like I need to carry salt with me every time I pass through. And it said, I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out the mouth of a dragon, and out of the mouth of a beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophets. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world. Meaning, which spirit will they serve? The spirit of truth or the spirit of deception? Labor, masters of illusion and enemies of progress. Brothers and sisters, let us not be deceived and let us not be bought. Let us stand firm. Let us lift up our youth, not use them. Let us find our future, not settle for boat rides and broken promises. So I see a St. Lucia where our young men and young women build dreams, not bury them. I see a future where our children thrive, not just survive. I see a government that listens when you speak, not only when you want their vote. And when the time comes, when we stand side by side, heart to heart, let us send a message so loud, so clear, so undeniable, and so powerful that their walls will tremble. And when they hear the name of Joshua, they will understand Jericho, because the United Workers' Party has a Joshua, and we are taking down Jericho. It's time we stop dividing our nation. Did we survive slavery and segregation just to enslave each other with division today? Black comes in every shade from dark to light, but we all are still black, still beautiful, and all still St. Lucia. Amen? Why divide by race when you once fought side by side for freedom? Let me ask this question. If your ideas were so strong, why do you need to attack another person's character to win? I don't see Flubbo doing that. You see, only the weak attack character when they have no achievements to stand on. That's called character assassination, when lies try to destroy truth. I am a black man of St. Lucia, and my father is light-skinned. Does that make him any less St. Lucian? No. You see, they tried to label me, but while they spread rumors, I was too busy shaping the future. I was too busy reading. I was too busy writing. I was too busy leading. I was too busy changing. You see, purpose doesn't need to fight propaganda because actions speak louder than words. So you see, we are not colors, we are not scandals, we are all St. Lucians. We are not colors, we are one nation. And as 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 10 reminds us, let there be no divisions amongst you, but that ye be perfectly joined together, the same mind and judgment. Let us stand as one, let us rise as one. United we rise, divided we fall. St. Lucia was born to rise out of eternal darkness. Let there be Flubbo. Thank you so much. Oh, I feel the presence of the Lord in this place. Don't you feel it? Now, many of you who follow us on Tuesday, April 29th, is the birthday of our founder, Sir John George Melvin Compton. Let's give a round of applause. Celebrate the life of Sir John Compton and all that he did, because you can witness it in Gross today with Pigeon Island. You're going down to Castries, you're going down to Viewfort, you're going down to Meekwood. This man has changed St. Lucia. Let us honor him. Let us celebrate him. United we stand. Now I'd like to call on our next speaker, a fiery and dynamic young woman. I like to see a young woman. She's our therapy. You understand? She's our healing for the United Workers' Party. She is Senator Dr. Farah Polius. Let us welcome her with a round of applause. Hey, I hope Labor don't try and touch our mic there.
Are you ready for some action? Yes. Mamai Flabo. Yes. The people of this country. And you know, when I watched and listened to that budget debate, all I saw was a show, a performance meant to distract from the real issues facing the country, the real issues that matter to the people of this country. And so rather than using Parliament's time to talk about those things that matter to you, some of those ministers were just talking about themselves, their egos, their self-aggrandizement, and who wants to get their seat. But I tell you, it is important for us to talk about those things that are critical to the development of this country. And so I want to speak about two areas that are often ignored: education and agriculture. So I'll turn to agriculture. In the past, our banana exports earned up to 18 million EC dollars. And last year, it fell to 3 million. 18 million to 3 million. A staggering $18 million loss over the years. And the question we need to ask, brothers and sisters, is Who killed the banana industry? Who killed the banana industry? Labor killed it. Labor killed it. And if you ask the farmers, and they will tell you, under a United Workers' Party administration, they always say that they are better. They are in better hands. And so as we reminisce on the life of Sir John, deceased Sir John, we must remember what he stood for and what he fought for. I am reminded of the profound love and care he had for St. Lucia, and especially the people of the valley. Sir John fought battles, not for glory, not for himself, but for us, for you and me, and all St. Lucians. He wrestled with these plantation owners, risking his life time and again, and he won. He took the people of the valley from poverty to middle class, owing to the banana industry. Thanks to green gold, over 16,000 families sent their children to school, to university, built homes, and created a better life for themselves and their families. Green gold wasn't just fruit, it was the currency of hope. But what did Labour do? They deliberately strangled the industry, all for political gain. They instigated strikes, they burned the sheds, they blocked the roads, they shut down the country. And that was labor. And today, that is still labor. For where there is labor, there is destruction, there's obstruction, there's disruption in the flow of development. That's what it is. But you know, the destruction was not by accident. It was by design. They wanted to erase Sir John's legacy. And with it, erase everything we built together with the farmers of this country. Since Labour took office in 2021, what has happened? Saudi? Ça sécession. Ça sécession. In 2021, production declined to just 1,662 tons, an 80% drop in a single year. In 2022, it fell even further, only 505 tons. And by 2023, production had collapsed to a shocking 8.4 tons of bananas. From 8,401 tons in 2020, listen well, to 8.4 tons in 2023, a 99.9% collapse under labor. And you want to celebrate? What is there to celebrate? And the real question we need to ask is why? Why? Because farmers had no boxes to export their produce. Because there was no spray oil to fight diseases, leaf spot. Because there was no stable markets ready to buy our bananas. Because the quality of fruit became so poor that the bananas bought for export had to be dumped. Except by Yodi, I have them on record. Mwen wè ek désye mwen. Cochon, bœuf, mouton, tout se bagay sa la ki te ka jwen se fig la. Fig ki te sa jwen van by company. Yo ka kiye se fama pou vini, viye, vinamase même fig sa la ki javan la. Where does the money come from to pay them? Shame. Shame. Under a United Workers' Party administration, farmers brought in 17.3 EC, and that's EC, $1 million in export revenue every year. Under labor, $1.33 million a year, a 92% collapse. Think about that, people. And you know what is unforgivable? They had the money, you know. They had the money. Over EC 20 million in World Bank funding. That was handed to them to save and to strengthen the industry. Money spent on lime, fertilizer. We decide, constituency office, district rep la, and Shayo, Tune warehouse, because that is where they stored some of the fertilizer and decided to give it to certain farmers and those who really needed the supplies didn't get it. And what do they have to show for it? Nothing but devastation. Nothing but devastation. So how can such generous resources from the World Bank lead to such catastrophic results? Ladies and gentlemen, the answer lies in three bitter truths. Three bitter truths. And the first one is that the Labour Party administration failed in their most basic duty, and that is to make sure that the farmers had access to leaf spot control materials through the banana unit. Today, you can take a drive through the farming communities, you know. You'll see for yourself. Fields abundant. Banana trees withered. Livelihoods destroyed. That's what you see around you when you go around the farming communities. And still, they want to celebrate. They say that they have a reason to celebrate. First-class shame. The second reason is that there was no real management of the banana industry. They set up a task force. What a task force la? Where is the task force now? Where are the recommendations from the task force? Why are we still producing bananas that cannot even be marketed? Why are we still producing bananas that cannot even be sold? De la pas même supermarket la ki vla acheter because quality a tellement mauvais. And the most disturbing of all, ladies and gentlemen, instead of helping the farmers of this country who needed the resources, this administration, and I want to say it again, this administration played politics with the resources. They played politics and decided, okay, we are going to give this one because this is one of our own, part of our flock. Or we will give this one because we want this person to vote for us. Our farmers, the men and women who work the land every single day, were treated not as citizens to be helped, but as tools to be used. And you think this is governance? No, it isn't. This is betrayal. This administration had everything they needed. They had the resources. They had the responsibility. But what they lacked were competence, fairness, and a care for all our farmers, not just a selected few, all the farmers of this country. So giving a farmer a couple of dollars as a so-called compensation for the devastation of their life's work, that is not help. That's an insult. And that's a slap in the face. So it is clear, ladies and gentlemen, that Labour has no vision, no plan, no real commitment to the future of the banana industry. No semblance. And we saw that in the estimates of revenue and expenditure. No semblance to revitalize the banana industry. And until Labour is held accountable, our farmers, you, me, your children, and all St. Lucians will continue to pay the price. We will continue to pay the price. And I want to use one example. We have to. Because they go on boasting and make people believe what does not really exist on the ground. So like many farming communities, Dennery North, that was once a thriving agricultural hub, has been left to rot. And where is the district rep, Honorable Sean Edwards, who once matched for the farmers at a time when farmers were getting good money for their fruits, you know, despite the challenges that the industry was facing at the time? Instead of championing their cause and rallying with the farmers and attending to their plight, you say you are celebrating. Shanuka hoot. You are celebrating? Are the farmers better off today? Ask them and they will tell you. Ask them and they will tell you. You kept silent when the farmers in Dennery North complained about the outbreak of lip spot about a month or two ago. Why didn't you make a statement then? Why didn't you come out of your hiding place and show your support? Have you forgotten, Honorable Sean Edward, that when in opposition, you staged a roadside protest in Lapel, showing off the deplorable road condition and the wastage of fruits of one particular banana farmer due to limited market access? And I want to say again, at a time when farmers were getting money, good money for their fruit. Have you forgotten, Honorable Sean Edward, that the people of Lapel begged you for better motorable road when your party was in office? You were in a position to fix it. You told them that there were too many bridges on that road and that your government could not undertake such costly road project. And in 2021, prior to elections, it started in 2020, late 2020, when you saw work happening on the very same road, a road that offers access to the Castries Viewfort Highway, you turned around and you said, people don't eat roads. You got your supporters in Lapel, the same people, you know, who had been begging for a proper road. They were singing the same tune, people don't eat roads. The farmers needed the road to transport their fruits. The residents needed it. Commuters needed it. And you too, Sean Edward, need it. Because ou ka ale la bien souvent ces jours, hein? But now the same road that people don't eat, you and your political engineers are serving the people of Dennery North a full course of concrete, a full course meal, you know, of concrete, asphalt, loose chips, every single day. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Jean Dennery North constipé. They will need suppositories. Parce que you're constipé. Now I turn my attention to education. Once again, we see a minister trying desperately, desperately to distinguish himself, but the facts simply don't support him. Let me be fair. I acknowledge the government's efforts, the 45 million allocation for school repairs, and the ambition for smart classrooms. As an educator, I support any investment to uplift our children and our education system. But smart classrooms require smart teaching. Not just smart boards. And technology without true reform is simply window dressing. Mr. Minister, how can we build a 21st century economy with a 20th century curriculum? We need real curriculum reform, starting at the primary level. But this budget offers none of that. But you know what? Trinidad and Tobago. The Minister of Education in Trinidad and Tobago has implemented a full national e-book program. E-book program. One that is aligned with the curriculum. One that is structured and transformative. You know what? Trinidadians understand that devices must come with content. Devices must come with instructional support, vision, in addition to training. And it pains me, ladies and gentlemen, to remind you and all St. Lucians that the former administration, the United Workers' Party administration, introduced a similar e-book initiative in this country. And what did Labour do? They stopped it. So giving a child a tablet or laptop without the skills or content is like handing out textbooks in a language that they cannot even read. So in terms of school attendance, ladies and gentlemen, we see in our schools, and even at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, absenteeism is rising. Students are disconnected. Parents are pleading for help. When classrooms are outdated and support is missing, motivation dies. And now we hear all that fanfare about paying CXC fees. we're not averse to providing some financial support to parents who really need it. But I want to ask, of what real benefit is paying exam fees if students are not adequately prepared to succeed? Where is the remedial support? Paying for CXC fees is just not enough. Our students need the support to succeed, to pass these exams, and to demonstrate adequate competencies and skills required for higher education and the workforce for the job market. They need, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, our children need skills for life in today's digital landscape and beyond. So where are the remedial programs? The Ministry of Education failed the children miserably post-COVID. Those who were left behind, those who were not able to meet the benchmarks, what provision was made? Where was the instructional support, remedial programs put in place to help those children accelerate, to close the gaps, to close the learning gaps? Where were they? And if we are serious about teacher training, we will change the mindset and the way we do things. And I also want to find out from the minister, how is this new digital economy prospect that they spoke so much about, how is it incorporated into initial teacher training at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College? I don't see it. I don't see it. So when a child says, Miss, I really hate school, you know. Miss, I couldn't do the assignment. And This is not a story I'm telling you. This is what my students tell me. Grown men. Miss, I couldn't make it. I could not do the assignment because I didn't have the money to come to school. Or, I have a son, I have a daughter, and I had to stay back to do this and to do that. I had to put food on the table for my children. Or my parents could not afford. When a parent has to work 2 jobs to pay for private lessons that the children should have received free of charge, we are not failing budgets. We are failing our children. We are failing our children. So we have to send that message to the minister and by extension, the rest of the flock. The most disgraceful moment of the entire budget presentation was when the Minister of Education, again Mr. Sean Edward, shamelessly wasted almost 10 minutes. I laughed. You know why I laughed? Because what he did, we had already discussed the night before. And we knew he was going to do just what he did. That's the sort of person that he is. So that was the most shameful thing. When he took almost 10 minutes not to outline any real policy, not to explain how the estimates would deliver for the people of Denry North, where education is concerned, nothing about that, but to launch petty attacks against a prospective opponent, Brad. Wow. A man who lived, who was born and bred in the community of Oleon, just articulating part of his plans for the development of the community. And we ruffled Sean's feathers. So that was not leadership on display. It was fear. It was not confidence. It was pure apprehension dressed up in bravado. That's what it was. And never had I witnessed such desperation. Such desperation disguised by strength and confidence in Parliament. But time will tell. He has to have Sakavin Puli. He has to have. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to the victims of the Labour Party across all constituencies, the victims of Sean Edwards' representation in Denry North, this is the moment. And I know they will come at you with so many things. Put on your thinking cap. Let the ministers worry about their seat. They want my seat. They want my seat. I pa te vle site moun la ite ka moute pou politics pou me kwa? Let them continue to worry about protecting their victory. But as a united workers' party, we will work for your children. We will work for their education and their future. We will rescue your farms. We will rescue and improve food production and security and the future of this country. We will lead with vision, not volume. We will deliver plans, not panic. We will build St. Lucia, not just boast about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mamai Flabo, this is the preferred political party, and we want you to continue to stand with us, for we will rise. I thank you all.
I believe that speech deserves another round of applause. That was Senator Dr. Farah Polios. Did y'all get the therapy y'all needed? Yes. Oh boy, it's going to be a good evening. Now, before we continue with our proceedings, we have to celebrate a birthday here. A birthday of one of our strong supporters, our fabulous, reliable, powerful, and dedicated, Minerva Bisset Fulgence. Round of applause for Minerva. She's always here early with the lives, helping with the chairs and the seating. She makes sure that she is committed to this party. She is one of our most loyal supporters. Let's give it up once again for Minerva. Happy birthday, Minerva. As a party, we love you and we thank you for all that you continuously do. Now, if you've noticed in this budget, many things were repeated by the Labour Party that you can clearly see were taken from the manifesto of the United Workers' Party. Our passports, the cruise ports, and so much more. But we'll get into that a bit later, because I would like to call to the podium a wonderful, a powerful, an authentic, and energetic young woman who is the UWP candidate for Grozy Lay. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause for the stunning and magnificent Marcella Johnson.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to persons in the diaspora, persons watching at home. We want to say thank you for your continued support. Now, I know I wasn't on the agenda this evening, but they called me to say a few words, and I think it's prudent that I say something. And tonight, the theme is on the budget. And as a former banker and a businesswoman, I can speak on what I see in this budget. As a banker, I'm someone who knows and understands the discipline required to manage money. I have serious, very serious concerns about this 2025 budget. While the government calls it people-centric, what I see is a budget filled with short-term gestures, delayed promises, and no bold economic strategy to move St. Lucia forward. We're looking at over $2 billion in planned spending and a $202 million deficit. But where is the strategic investment that will generate real returns for our country? In banking, we don't just spend money to feel good. We spend money to build value. And right now, St. Lucia needs value creation, not vanity spending. The government talks about removing VAT from food items, but not until July 2026. I want you to get that. It is not until July 2026. When is election due? So what will happen? Will they be in office or out of office? Yes. That is too late for the mother in Moshi, the grandmother in Granivier, or the man in Beauséjour struggling to feed the family today. People need relief now, not next year when it's politically convenient. There is no clear vision in this budget for how we grow the economy sustainably. Where is the investment in agriculture to lower our food import bill? Where is the meaningful support for small businesses, the real engine that creates jobs in this country? These are the fundamentals I would expect to see in a budget that claims to be serious about transformation. As a businesswoman, I believe in helping people, but more importantly, in empowering them. This budget leans heavily on handouts and short-term benefits, like a one-time $600 payment to pensioners. That might help for 1 month, but what happens in the months after? What happens? Where is the plan to lift our people out of dependency? The projected deficit may look small on paper, but we must ask, how are we funding it? More debt? If you are a banker sitting across from a client proposing this kind of borrowing without a solid plan for returns, you would be cautious. As a country, we should be just as cautious. Finally, this budget does little to address the social and economic impact of reducing crime. Crime has been rising in this country, and we have not heard anything from this government on crime. Investors want safety. Businesses want stability. Families want peace of mind. A budget that does not speak directly to curbing crime is a budget that fails to understand the real risk to our future. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about what I have said on the budget. I want you to pound on what I have said. You manage your homes, and I don't think you would want to be managing your homes in this way. So I ask you to do the right thing. Stand with the United Workers' Party under the leadership of the Honorable Alan Chastney, a man who is visionary, a man who knows what it takes to lead and manage his country and to put you out of debt. This government, the SLP, does not know how to manage, and they do not have a plan. When you put the country in debt, you are putting our future generations into more and more debt. How will they ever be able to survive the future? With that, ladies and gentlemen, I say no more on this, but I would like to invite you to the opening of the Grosley constituency this Thursday, May 1st at 3 p.m. This is opposite the open lot opposite Harbor Club. I hope to see you all there. There'll be exciting entertainment from various local artists. Miss it, blame yourself. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the UWP candidate for Grosley, Miss Marcella Johnson. Let's make sure we give her a round of applause. I'm going to do like Spider, jump high, jump low. Labor? You understand? Now, before I ask for the next speaker, I'd like to say that someone within our midst has lost their cell phone. So people, please check on you if you have your phones. If you don't, please see me in the back because we have a lost cell phone. But I would like to call on a powerful person, a dynamic person, a visionary, and the only other person to win the election beside John Compton in the leadership of the United Workers' Party, the man, the myth, the legend, the honorable leader of the opposition, Alan Chastney.
You want to go? Don't want to disappoint you all. I really came up at this point because a very dear friend to the party and to a person who is a tremendous supporter of the party passed away and that is Shane, who is Ring the Bell's brother. So his twin brother. Very, very, very sad. So if we can maybe just stand up for a moment of silence. Thank you. I wanted to get up as also to introduce the next speaker. And I know that Spider and a lot of other people have really done a lot of justice to the speaker, but I certainly wanted to stand up before he spoke to lend my voice. And for us to just take a moment, because they say that time is the great revealer of truth. Time is the great revealer of truth. And sometimes the truth is right there before us. The evidence is right there before us. Yet, some people still allow other persons who have a very clear agenda. You know, sometimes when somebody is going to tell you something, you must step back for a moment and ask, is that person telling me something that is objective? Or does that person have another agenda in mind? So when a labor person once and comes to tell you what is good and what is bad in Flabo, let me repeat that again. When a person that you know is a labor supporter wants to come and tell us or to tell you what is good for the United Workers' Party or what is bad for United Workers' Party, well, you have to ask yourself, what kind of person is this person? So I say this because I read something and I want to repeat it again here tonight. This was written by a very famous Russian philosopher. But again, let's understand the premise of what I'm saying. If somebody comes to say something to you, you must always ask yourself, what is that person's agenda? Okay? I see many of the faces that were in the room when I spoke before a convention in 2016 at the Culture Center. And I spoke about the seeds of doubt. And I used the example of two vendors next to each other, both of them selling tomatoes. And they're competing against each other. And they want to now tell you that their tomato is the best tomato. And that's good. If each one of them are saying all the positive things about their tomatoes, and you can make a decision. But sadly for us, human nature is that we know the negative works better than the positive. So if I say I have a beautiful tomato and I took my time making this tomato, and the other lady says, yes, I did the same thing, and my family all understand how to do farming, and I have the best tomatoes. But that's not what they're going to tell you. One of them is going to tell you, do not buy tomatoes from her, because I've watched her. The same bucket that she's peeing in is the same bucket that she's washing the tomatoes in. Is that not the truth? Not everybody, okay? But it is a much more convincing argument to say something negative than it is to say something positive. That's who we are. We're all the same. I'm not there criticizing anybody, right? But we must understand our own nature in that. And I said, here's what the thing says. It says, a man who lies to himself and believes his own lies becomes unable to recognize the truth. A man who lies and believes his own lies becomes unable to recognize the truth. Powerful, powerful words. And we see it. We saw it in the house. We saw people up there speaking things that we know to be an untruth. And yet they're speaking so convincingly that they are right. So it means what I saw in the house on Thursday and Friday was a group of men and women who now believe their own lies. Anybody who believes that life has gotten better in St. Lucia is lying to themselves. And that's why I said to them, all of y'all have decided to get into the plane with Alva Baptist and fly at 35,000 feet. And all of y'all need to get off the plane and come on the bus and to see what people are going through. It cannot be. It's impossible that people are paying more taxes in this country. So let's just look at it. Simple math. I don't want to get complicated. If a product cost $1, okay, and it was coming into St. Lucia, and the taxes that the government of St. Lucia were charging, just for simple math, was 10%. That means the total amount of taxes that the government of St. Lucia would collect is 10 cents, right? 10% of $1, 10 cents. The world went through inflation, but the world also went through supply chain issues. And what it did, it caused the price of goods to go up. So again, simple calculation. If that product that used to cost $1 now is going to cost $1.50, and the tax remains the same, 10%. Okay? That means the government now is going to collect 15 cents. 5 cents more than it was collecting before. But you're still only importing the one product. You follow me? Okay? So it means that government taxes have increased, but the production of products has not increased. Okay? This is why what we said to the government was reduce the 10% tax and bring it down so that you only get the 10 cents. So everybody understands that the government of St. Lucia has no control over the cost of the item coming in, but don't make it worse by charging the full tax, because it means you're going to make more money. The government of St. Lucia didn't listen. They went and added 2.5% tax. They increased the tax and then made it a compounded tax. So the tax wasn't just on the goods and services. The tax was charged after the VAT was charged. Then they charged the 2.5% on top of that. And they didn't just do it on goods, they did it on services. And that's why the first company to raise their prices was Kentucky Fried Chicken. Remember the government said that this was not going to affect the price of food? Okay? I say this to you because we know that taxes have gone up in this country. In fact, the report says it. The report says that the government of St. Lucia is collecting, hear this, $300 million more in taxes today than they were collecting in 2019. Let me repeat that number again for you. The government of St. Lucia is collecting $300 million more in taxes. And the taxes are on the excise tax, which is the duties, and on the 2.5%. Now you would think that that is greedy enough, and the government has gotten enough money. The government decided to tax you again. Because when the price of fuel came down in the rest of the world, they kept the price of gas at the pump at $16.50. And so they were making more money on that tax even than before. So the $300 million comes from the extra money they were making off of the gas, the extra money because the cost of goods became higher, so they automatically were getting more taxes, and it also came from the 2.5% levy. All those things were in control of the government. But what happened? Because the gas price went to $17.95, the bus drivers said, I can't survive. And instead of paying the bus drivers a subsidy, they said, we will give you a rate increase. Now, because they gave them that rate increase, if you don't already believe it, I'm telling you, the prices of bus fares will never go back to where they were before. Never. The bakers said we can't survive. So they allowed the price of bread to go from 25 cents to 50 cents. Double the price. The cost of electricity, the cost of cooking gas, the cost of kerosene, everything went up. Okay? The one thing that did not go up was your salaries. And also the income of businesses that their profit did not go up. Because they're not producing anything more. The economy hasn't really grown. So you tell me, Marcella was talking about running a household. I want you to think that you're a housewife. Okay? Your income tax has gone up. Okay? The price of goods to buy for your children, to buy for your husband, to buy for yourself have all gone up. You adjust the best that you can. Maybe you try to buy a little bit less. Maybe you don't get some things that you were getting before. And then to make matters worse, your income hasn't gone up. Are you better off? Are you better off? You're not better off. And I took that time to explain that because this is a very important, this is the essence of our argument. Don't come and tell me that the GDP has grown. Don't tell me about unemployment. Don't tell me about all those things when every single day I know I'm making the same amount of money, but it's not going as far as it was going before. Right? So that's when you want to lie to yourself. So it goes on and it says, truth either in himself or in anyone else, and he ends up losing respect for himself and for others. So here we go. A man who lies to himself and believes his own lies becomes unable to recognize the truth, either in himself or in anyone else, and he ends up losing respect for himself and for others. When he has no respect for anyone, he can no longer love, and in him he yields to his impulses, indulges in the lowest form of pleasure, and behaves in the end like an animal in satisfying his vices. And it all comes from lying to others and yourself. We see they're lying to themselves. And what they want to do is to now come and convince you, right, that their lies are the truth. And that's why I wanted to come up before I introduced the next speaker. Because there's nobody that I have met, including myself, where the Labour Party has gone off and attempted to destroy his character. And they have known no boundaries in doing so. There's no limitations in what they're prepared to do to try to demean this person. Every day. That he's a volet, that he's this, that he's that. Okay? They've provided no proof. Now, you know, just saying there's no proof in my mind is not sufficient. But after this amount of time, it is required. It is required. Stephen King said that there was corruption in the road, Rodney Bay Road. Up to now, he still wants to say that there was corruption in the dam. And Guy Joseph had nothing to do with the dam. But he wants to keep people believing that somehow that Guy Joseph, because he was the Minister of Economic Development, that he somehow could have influence over it. So you had CDB. CDB is the one. And let's call a spade, you know. The Labour Party are the ones who started the negotiations with CDB for the desilting of the dam. Okay? And I'm not saying that to pass anything on. Once we get in, I accept full responsibility. We had long discussions with CDB about the decision. Long discussions. But to suggest that there was bubble, nonsense. How? The amount of steps you have to go through. So there's no truth to it. Now, when I see the level of corruption that's taking place today in this country, Bonanza land. How do you sell that Bonanza land for $2.7 million when the value was $6.7 million in 2013? You don't put it out to bid. Up to today, Richard Frederick and the Ministry of Housing cannot answer the questions as to where the money went. Who were the contractors that were building the cemeteries? Can't answer the question. And then when we talk about CIP, not $1, not $2, You all heard what Ralph Gonzalez said? Ralph said that they gave the governments years to clean up the CIP. That's what he said. But they could not clean it up because if they cleaned it up, there would be no money. And he said, it is too sweet. Too sweet. They can't stop. He's the one who said about the level of corruption. Now that is a standing prime minister. But more importantly, that is the six-star general of the comrades. He's saying that about his own colleagues. But we don't need Ralph Gonzalez. We don't need the government of America. We don't need anybody else. We have eyes of our own. We can see for ourselves what is going on in our country. And so we still have people today who want to villainize Guy Joseph. You really believe if Labour Party thought that Guy Joseph was no good for United Workers' Party, they would tell you? Huh? So if Guy Joseph was a detriment to United Workers' Party and had no use, you think they would say anything? I think what we say in St. Lucia, nobody's pelting stones at a green mango. Correct? People only pelt stones at a ripe mango. And how many years we've allowed this to go on? And all the evidence there, and I'm telling you, as the former prime minister of this country and as the political leader of this United Workers' Party, we have some great candidates amongst us. Really great candidates. But one of the people that has been the most committed and has stayed the course of United Workers' Party, a person is always there. You come to our community nights, you go anywhere, anytime there's a fight to be had, the first person in line to defend the United Workers' Party is Guy Joseph. And all of his colleagues will tell you in cabinet, Guy Joseph makes it his business to know everything because that is what a minister of government is supposed to do. You're supposed to know the details of what is going on in your ministry. But when you sit in cabinet, you're supposed to know the details of every single thing that's taking place in the country. But we want to make it out to believe that because he knows everything that is going on, that somehow that is a bad thing. That was his responsibility to do. And that is responsibility of every single candidate to know everything about what's going on in the country. You don't have a prime minister that says, I don't know. I'm going to leave it to the science. I wasn't a police officer. And every time you go to Parliament, he tells you, the details will be provided by my minister. Well, Mr. Prime Minister, let me tell you, you must know the details yourself. You must know everything that's going on in the country. So with that, I want to introduce my dear friend, a fighter, a man who has done more to defend the United Workers' Party and to raise the standard of this country. A man who has done more for his constituency than any other person who's represented that constituency. A man who has St. Lucia and St. Lucians at the forefront of his heart. And a person that I'm honored to say is my friend, Minister Guy Joseph.
Thank you very much, political leader. Good night, everyone. It's nice to be here tonight again. And we are at a critical point in the history of politics in this country. We are at a critical point because, as you would observe, the Labour Party pronounced their manifesto in what is considered a budget. But you know, how many of you have purchased things on hire purchase? Most people go to courts and you take things on hire purchase. Sometimes you go, the banks offer 0 down payment for a loan for vehicles. I consider the budget presented by the Prime Minister as a hire purchase budget. A budget that appears to offer you something good. But when you go into the finer details, the small print, as we would say, and I know insurance companies would not like me for saying this, but sometimes you buy insurance and you think you have full coverage. But you fail to read the fine print. And it's when you get into an accident, or there is a fire, or an earthquake, where you thought your house had all coverage, or a landslide, you realize that your policy did not cover certain things. I want St. Lucians not to be distracted by the budget presented by the Prime Minister. Because there are things in this budget that makes certain pronouncements that should be worrying to every right-thinking St. Lucian. And I want you to pay attention to what I'm going to say tonight. Because I know you may look for the punchlines, and I know you may look for some entertainment. But it's really sad where St. Lucia is today. And after this budget presentation by the Prime Minister, I realize that we are in more trouble than we think we really are. Some of us, we may be looking at it on the surface. And I've heard a few persons, they say, boy, you didn't have what the Prime Minister was offering. Well, let me tell you something. Let's just take a few of them to be more precise. Who removed government workers from the pension of government? Who removed the police and firemen in 2003? It was a Labour Party in office that removed fire officers and police officers and public servants in general from getting a government pension at 55. So I'm supposed to come and applaud Philip J. Pierre when you are Kenny's deputy, when the decision was made in cabinet to remove all government workers from government pension and put them to pay NIC. And then y'all had Emma there who increased the NIC age when you qualify for NIC payments. And today 22 years later, you come and make some mad pronouncement that nobody understands how it is going to be implemented. And I've told you, the devil is in the details. The devil in what Labour is presenting is in the details. I want to know that these people who have contributed for the last 22 years to the NIC, whether the money will be transferred from the NIC to the government of St. Lucia. And whether the investments made with their money, the dividends that was accumulated will be handed over to the government of St. Lucia. You see, it is easy for people to allow themselves to be fooled by what the Labour Party is presenting. You see, just like they came with the 2.5%, and less than a year later we knew that it was never for health and security, but it was for security for a loan from Caribbean Development Bank. Wait and you will see the pronouncements in the budget, what it is leading up to. And I heard some worrying statements in the budget. I think Sean is losing it. I think we have an education minister who has gone mad. I don't know whether it's Brad that have him under so much pressure in Denry North. But something is definitely wrong with the Minister of Education and the Prime Minister. We have a Prime Minister and we have a co-Prime Minister. We have Philip JP as Prime Minister and his co-Prime Minister is Richard Frederick, the boss of the Labour Party. And Labour writes, y'all can say what y'all want, how y'all want. Richard Frederick is your boss in the St. Lucia Labour Party. And there's nothing y'all can do about that. He decides when he speaks in the budget. And he can tell other boys in the Labour Party, sit down, not your turn to speak. I will speak now. Didn't I tell you that I am speaking now? And that includes Alva. I want you all to understand what is happening to our country. Because don't be sidetracked. And when I tell you, I heard the Prime Minister pronouncing period poverty. Let me tell you something. When a country has reached to a point where mothers cannot buy pads for their daughters, it tells me that my country has sunk below the line. And I heard Dr. Wilson's contribution on Newspin on Friday, and I'm happy for the contribution that she made. Now I want to ask the mothers who are listening to me tonight, if your daughter's period comes on the weekend, will you go and knock on the school door and ask the security to open there for you so you can get some pads? I ain't polishing no language. I ain't calling no sanitary napkin. I know better. Philip J. Pierre, you should be ashamed as Prime Minister of this country that we have sunk so low that you know mothers cannot buy pads for their daughters. Let me tell you something. There's something that we call pride and integrity. There is something that we call decency. There are certain things that people experience in life that they don't necessarily want to share publicly. Instead of doing things to improve the lot of the average St. Lucian, your solution to the problem is $250,000 to the Ministry of Education to buy pads to put in schools. Let me tell you, not even in Haiti have I heard that they implement a program of this nature. Pa même Haiti, ki ni tout soufa sa, ek tout bagay wed sa. So Labour Party knows that they have reduced us in this country to the lowest common denominator. And you think I should rejoice for that? You think there should be some rejoicing? Now, Sean, I'm asking you this question. As a man, it's not a lady that's the Minister of Education. Will the schools have to report to you so you can know how many young women in the school got their periods during the time that they were in school? And do you have sinister motives for trying to find out how many young women can afford pads in the schools? You know, there are some things that politicians must know. When they open their mouth and speak about it, it will be scrutinized. And these disgusting men in the Labour Party who have no respect for young women in this country and are proud to come and boast about which young woman they have been with should never be allowed to come close to our young daughters in this country. And if you all want me to go down the road, can you believe a member of parliament, a cabinet minister, is going to look at a mother who asked for a couple sheets of plywood and say, you have to set me up on your daughter for you to get a few sheets of plywood? These Labour Party men are disgracing the politics of St. Lucia. And Philip J. Pierre, that is what you should be addressing. Y'all fellas are a disgrace to women in this country. You know, those who couldn't feed their children, they had to be taken to court for child support, all of a sudden had how many jobs and can qualify to get millions of dollars of loans? So say more duty, more delay, ou pate ka souen issue. Say pa because you pat se afford. And look at what the court's asking, $200 a month. What can $200 do for a mother with a child to take care of? And some of you government ministers could not even feed your own children. But today you all want to pretend as if you all care so much about the young women of this country. Mr. Prime Minister, you owe St. Lucia an apology that you have reduced this country to the point where we have period poverty. Not even during adult suffrage. Not even during adult suffrage from 1951 to about 1964, things were not so bad in this country. Because you know what? We have to treat our women with respect. And I believe that it is disrespectful that a young lady should have to go to a school and ask for sanitary napkins. There must be a better way. There must be a way to maintain the integrity of our young women. Their pride and their dignity must be uplifted, not being brought to the gutters. You know how children, let me tell you something. When you cannot afford to go to school with a brand name shoes, you know how much pressure you are under. And I know parents know what I'm talking about. That is why some schools had to implement rules that no brand name shoes. Because when your parents can afford to give you a brand name and then the other child have a no brand, problems. Can you imagine today that a mother cannot buy sanitary napkins for her daughter, so her daughter have to go and report to the school? That is disgraceful. It hurts me, because there are certain things I will not deal with when it comes to a woman. I will tell my wife, look here, if this person needs something, you deal with that. A minister of education and a prime minister. Now the words I want to use to describe them, I cannot use it. You taking budget time to come and speak about that as if that's some achievement or some accomplishment that you have made. You know, we can laugh about it, but it hurts to know that this is what my country, St. Lucia, has become today. That we have reached the point where the government, the Minister of Finance, the Prime Minister is aware that things are so bad in this country that this is the measures that you are going. How is that a solution to the problem? How sustainable is that? How long will it continue? And the next thing, what will you have to buy? Now look at it. The same prime minister who want to put sanitary napkins in the school, not putting toilet paper in the schools. The parents have to give their children a roll of toilet paper in their bags to go to school. You see how mentally deranged the men we have in government are? Because it's only a mentally deranged person will think like that. So you put in $250,000 for that, but they don't have toilet paper. So what they supposed to use? Their hand? You understand? So you don't think that some of these same mothers, so why you didn't just buy toilet paper and put in the schools? So that the mothers will not have to buy toilet paper to put in their children's bag to go to school. And you can ask the teachers, how many children say they cannot have their things there because if they put it there, somebody else takes it? That is what our schools have become under the St. Lucia Labour Party. We did not have that problem under the United Workers' Party. I'll move on from this because I'm telling you, I'm speaking about it and it hurts. It hurts because I know what some mothers are going through. It hurts because I know the embarrassment that is associated with a mother having to go through that ordeal with her young daughter. And because some of us can afford to do it, we may not see it that way. But think of if you were in the place of that mother and you had a daughter and that is what she had to go through. And then her friends will begin to pick on her in school. and think that. I mean, we know kids, we know how children behave. So, if it happens, so let me just give you a simple scenario to tell you how much this government is not thinking. So, if a young lady's period comes overnight and she has to go to school tomorrow, how she boarding the bus? To go and get the sanitary napkins in the school? I mean, I think this government is so clueless. But you know what? This is another election gimmick by the Labour Party. It's not about caring about the young women. So what was happening 4 years ago? What was happening 3 years ago? What was happening 2 years ago? So last year, before election budget, is all of a sudden you wake up one day as Minister of Education and you realize that's a problem? And you come in and boast about $250,000 for it? Let me say here to us tonight, you see this Labour Party, they don't care about you and they don't care about me. All they care about is how are we going to win the next election? Protecting the victory. You know, I've said it and I will say it tonight because up to this morning we had a discussion about it. A family had the loss of a loved one. Family struggling, trying to bury their loved one. They went to a minister of government for assistance. And the minister said, for me to help you, you have to allow me to paint a picture on the wall in front of your house saying, vote for Labour. Understand what I'm telling you. The money paid was not from the minister's pocket. It was from the government of St. Lucia. But that is the type of trading that is taking place inside the St. Lucia Labour Party. You think Philip J. Pierre doesn't know these things? You think they don't know what they are doing? But everything for them is about politics. And the family needing the help agreed. But the longest rope has an end. Now, I'll touch on a couple other points. There's so much fear of what President Trump is doing in America. And many of us think that it's not fair and it's not right. Isn't that so? So, how many St. Lucians think it was not fair and it was not right when a minister in the present government said that people like me should be put on a boat and sent back to India? And Alan Chasney should be sent back to Martinique. You see, I keep on telling St. Lucians, Guamundi le bab kamawadu pui dife, uze sao. Prendlo ek uze sao. We have tolerated a lot of injustices in this country. And there's one thing I know about life. What goes around, comes around. So when our turn comes, we begin to cry. So we had Trump sending back people, whether you have visa, whether you have citizenship. In fact, they are reviewing people who went up there and had their children, whether their children are actual U.S. citizens. But here we are, born in a country, raised in the country. Everything I know for me is Lucian. Maybe my great grandparents would have come from India as indentured servants, and they made the choice to stay in St. Lucia. When a sitting member of government in the Prime Minister's office can say that people like us should not be in St. Lucia. When Trump does his thing in America, you think this government can say to Trump, you cannot do this to our people, or you should not, when they can just go and pull out the clipping and say, this is what you are doing in your own country? But I have always told us, we will feel it one of these days. The behavior of the government will affect you whether you are Flabo, you are Labour, or you vote for no one. Now, you saw what was happening with Trump and Elon Musk, and you will see bad habits don't go away that easily. And I want to tell some people, beware of the people who are coming to you. Now, what was interesting to me is in the budget on the universal health care, the Prime Minister said that one of the things they will care about for persons is snake bites. Under universal health care, one of the subtopics is snake bites. So you will get free care for snake bites. Now that tells me two things. For a moment, I think I'm in India. I was watching one of the IPL matches and the game had to be stopped because this snake was going across the playing field in India. But I told you, we had a Minister of Agriculture and St. Lucia would turn to a forest. You all didn't believe me? The Labour Party believed me. Why on God's earth, with so many sicknesses in St. Lucia, so many things that people are suffering from, the one thing the government found to add to the list of care is snake bites? Now, that tells me two things. He knows there's a snake in the cabinet, and maybe he wants free health care for when that snake will bite him. But beyond that, our farms have been abandoned, and apparently agriculture is no more under this Labour Party government. So the government is preempting our situation, and they are now trying to make sure that you are taken care of when a snake will bite you. Not if a snake will bite you according to Labour, when a snake will bite you. Now, I come from forest, yeah? People know the forests have snakes, but where I live, I have not seen any snakes. Anyway, I want to know whether Pip betrayed Kenny by bringing Richard Frederick into the SLP. And I want to know whether Pip is a snake also. Just like Steve betrayed Alan and the UWP. King, just as King betrayed Alan and the UWP. Did Pip betray Kenny? And is that why Kenny is not part of the Labour cabinet? Labour is making you believe that half a loaf is better than no bread. I want to tell you, whoever made that statement had their reason for making that statement. But I will make my own statement. A whole bread is better than half a bread. Do we agree? A whole pain, pli me passe half a pain. So pa di mwen kana whole pain ba flambo. Hot kavin ba half a pain ba leba. Ek mwen suppose rejoice pou sa. If you are putting me first, is not half a loaf I should get. Is not one loaf. I should get 2 loaves. Don't come and give me half a loaf and tell me it's better. Now, we are coming on the eve of Sir John's 100th anniversary of his birthday. I want to tell you, SLP is a party of destroyers. UWP is a party of builders. Everything that you see in this country was built by the United Workers' Party. And I want to challenge the Labour Party on this. Now, you know, sometimes we get distracted. And I want to use a little Bible illustration. You know, when the children of Israel left slavery in Egypt, they had cried to God for 400 years. They had been in slavery in Egypt. 400 years. And they cried by reason of the punishment of their taskmasters. And God heard them. And God sent Moses to deliver them. When they got to the wilderness on the way to the promised land, there were little challenges here and there. They said, we should go back to Egypt. Because there we got the garlic, we got the onions, at least we were eating. Quickly they forgot all the licks they were getting from the taskmasters. They forgot all the crying they did. That it reached to God, that God heeded and brought them deliverance. They wanted to go back there. That is human nature. Labor have made us suffer for the last 4 years. And they're trying to fool us on the last year of election. But I know the people of St. Lucia will not fall for the tricks of the St. Lucia Labour Party. We know better than that. I will say further to you. They know very well. My problem is not with doctors and nurses. They know my problem is not with the workers at the airport. You know what my problem is? My problem is the SLP and what they are doing, the dirty work they are doing undercover to come after members of the United Workers' Party. And I tell you, I'm a Bible man, so I like to use Bible. The serpent, the snake, was one of the most beautiful creatures in creation. And the snake used to fly before. It wasn't crawling. It was a flying creature. And it used to change all these colors. That is why Satan was able to use the snake or the serpent to tempt Eve. And it was a wonder because she had never heard any of the animals speak before. And seeing the snake and having the conversation. The Labour Party will use anyone that puts themselves at their disposal to do their dirty work. And I know they will come after me. They are starting to come after our new candidates. The first thing they said, they are second-class candidates. Well, I know if our candidates are second-class candidates, Labour Party have no class candidates. They have no class candidates. So if they have no class, I can settle for second class. You understand? You know what it is to graduate with second class honors? But you see, when they cannot find things, they manufacture it themselves. I mean, I saw Tommy walk in there, chief economist in the Ministry of Economic Development. Now serving at CDB. Look, another world-class man here, Mr. Fevrier. Castries now, serving at the highest level on a global stage. Chico, one of our top persons at the Customs Department. And they know they cannot find fault with Chico and his term in representing the government of St. Lucia at the highest level. Marcella, a successful woman, but they want to go into people's bedrooms and discuss their bedroom business. But when it was the Speaker of the House, they said, what a man do in his bedroom is his business. You remember? With Macdum? You remember? I tell them already, I don't forget. So when it's them, it's nobody's business. But when it's other people, it's everybody's business. So there was a time they used to say, guy is a minibus driver, he don't have no education. Today I have a master's degree and I have a bachelor's degree. What are they saying? Have you ever heard them attack me on my representation of Castries Southeast? Never. Because they know all of them put together have not done more work than I have done. So you know what? They will continue to attack on things that make no sense. Because I've told them, I am ready when they are ready. Come and let's discuss. Now, I saw they gave my political leader a challenge. Richard Frederick, the only persons who can challenge Alan Chasney is within the UWP. We can challenge our leader. Now, if you want to challenge somebody, challenge Philip J. Pierre and tell him sing the national anthem for us. All of a sudden, you have $1 million and it's Alan Chasney you want to give your $1 million. Alan Chasney does not need your $1 million, Richard. The means by which you earn money will contaminate the money of Alan Chasney if he puts your money on the same account that he has his money. And I want to tell you, Richard Frederick, if that is your criteria for determining who is St. Lucians, I want to pick 10 labor rights, just 10. And I want you to bring them and give them to sing the national anthem. Because you see the stupidity. You have to report to the people of St. Lucia on your high-rise buildings in Dennery. You cannot do that. You want to come and challenge my political leader about national anthem? And that's how you want to determine who are St. Lucians? You see, St. Lucia, the Labour Party has no solution to the economic crisis that this country is in. And I will tell you, as I speak to you today, the government is owing local suppliers almost $80 million. 79 million to be more precise. And it is on page 131 of the Social and Economic Review. Now you tell me, Mr. Prime Minister, if the country is doing so well, why our little people who sell things to the government, why are you owing them $79 million? So remember, months ago I told you all, one of the suppliers of hospital equipment and medicine was on the verge of taking the government to court and had cut out all supplies to the hospital. And a lawyer had already written to the government to file a case. I want us to understand. When I tell you this is a higher purchase budget, I'm serious about this, you know. They have taken a lot of credit. Ek yo paka pay debt yo. That is serious, you know. You know, prior to COVID, what our average was? $30 million was the average payables that government would have on a yearly basis. For that matter, in 2019, it was just at $47 million. So, how is it today that you've collected $1 billion more in taxes? You've borrowed $1 billion more, and you still owing our people $79 million. How? And you tell me you're a good manager? If he was managing any company anywhere, the whole board of directors would have been fired. Now they want to make you believe that you're not supposed to run the country properly. Let me tell you, why do countries have surpluses? And you come in and boast about what you have achieved. Now, this government of the St. Lucia Labour Party is borrowing over $300 million a year. While under Alan Chasney and the United Workers' Party, we averaged prior to COVID $104 million a year was the maximum borrowing that was done. Who is a better financial manager? And remember what we inherited. Kenny said in 2015, something happened that had never happened before. They went to the market and they could not borrow. People were not buying the bonds and the treasury bills from St. Lucia because we were seen as a liability. Under the United Workers' Party, under leadership of the Honorable Alan Chasney, we were able to turn the economy around. We were able to fix things prior to COVID so that all the borrowing you see Labour is able to do now, they are able to do because of the foundation left by the United Workers' Party under the Minister of Finance, Alan Chasney. And Pierre, I can challenge you on this. You're borrowing. You have borrowed about $1 billion. And you have taxed us another $1 billion. So you tell me, what do we have to show for these $2 billion that you have had at your disposal? Healthcare is not working. Education is in crisis. Our roads are a disaster. Can you believe the Prime Minister said that they got infrastructure that was so dilapidated and they are fixing it? Spider yon fe 70 shime gozile. Mwebe beka ulala teacher concrete. Yoshime ti bay la fe. One road the boy did. Now pa mwen ki di sa boy, liki di sa little black boy. You see, you can't put children in charge of your business. You need real men and women to handle the crisis that we are in. All of them telling you they are boys. Well, go to school. Huh? Well, boy, put your short pants on, go to primary school. We're talking about big men business. We're talking about the affairs of a country. We're talking about a country in crisis. You come in and tell me you're a little boy? Little boys peeing in bed. You know, that's who we put in charge of this country. And we expect to go somewhere. You know, I know you all want to enjoy yourselves, but I want to say to us, we have bigger problems. We have bigger problems. In this country, SLP does not play fair. They don't want the people of St. Lucia to have the government they want. They want the people of St. Lucia to want the Labour Party, even if the people of St. Lucia don't want the Labour Party. Now they are imposing themselves on you. That is why you see all these maneuverings taking place with voters and all of this thing. The problem in St. Lucia today is the St. Lucia Labour Party. That is the biggest problem we have in this country. All their dirty tricks. That's why they attack me all the time. But you see, their attacks cannot stand. They say, what has happened to the special prosecutor that they appointed for Guy Joseph? Philip JP say he don't have nothing. If you have information, bring it to the special prosecutor. Huh? SLP can do what they want, when they want. And we flabos want to behave as if we are afraid of these labor rights. Now I've said to you all, that's one man who's not afraid of labor. And I will take on labor anytime, anywhere. Because this nonsense that some people think that they have more right in this country than others, the days that used to pass with Flabo, that cannot pass anymore. We are going to stand to the Labour Party, and we are going to let them know who we are. Like the evil men who set traps for Daniel, so the SLP is constantly setting traps for persons within the United Workers' Party. Can you imagine being attacked in church and every member of the SLP said, we stand with you for attacking a person in church? That doesn't tell us all we need to know about the Labour Party. You know, when we had the cathedral incident, we know how we felt. The incident that I faced in church could have been the same. People could have lost their lives. And before you checked it, there's still debate about where the gun was. Who had the gun? Did he drop the gun by Claudius before he came to the church or after he left the church? Nobody knows. But Labour Party stood with him. And Labour, I've told you these fellas are wicked, and if they have to kill to be in office, they will kill, and I make no apologies for saying this. That is how dirty the Labour Party plays. And that is how desperate they are in coming after us. So I know how they're coming after me. I know, you know how many people they've called and offered money to try and set me up? I want you to know that this is not simple politics we are talking about there. This is not the everyday politics where we have a difference in opinion and point of view. Labour Party will go all out to destroy. That's what they stop at nothing. If they feel you are in their way, and now that Richard has joined them, is more trouble. Is more trouble. We know the records. Can you imagine if one of us had the allegations and the track record of Richard Frederick and all the things that are associated with him? Labour Party was the one who said that man should never be in the politics of this country. Today he is co-prime minister. And all Labourites, their mouths are shut. But they want to come and tell you, Flabos, who to have in your party. And some of you repeat the nonsense that the Labourites are saying. So, Flabos, you need to wake up. And we need to stop that nonsense. Labourites have Richard with them. When Richard was with us, they tell you Richard was the devil in disguise. We should not have him. He's dangerous for the politics of St. Lucia. Now they have him. Philip JPS says, I am proud to have him in my cabinet. And you all say nothing about this, but you all want to turn on your own people and attack your own. So when I see Flambos doing that, I watch them suspiciously. Because I know their hearts are leaning somewhere else. Now, how much more evidence do you need to see that it's not people who are the problem of St. Lucia? It is Labour Party and their wickedness. You know, I've been used as a scapegoat so many times. Some of my own colleagues, when something didn't pass in cabinet and they didn't want to tell their friend they didn't vote for it, they would tell them, guy, block your thing. As soon as they tell them that, they would pick up the person would pick up the phone and call me and tell me, I was told you blocked my thing in cabinet. I said, cabinet have 15 people, I'm one. And I can block your thing. But you see, those who are doing that, they're not here anymore. They're where they belong. Say, Sakit Kapesa, they are in the right place now. They are where they belong, where they ought to be. You see, St. Lucians, more St. Lucians will work under a United Workers' Party government. We will not reduce the employment persons entitled to employment and try to tell you that we have the lowest employment. Fake numbers. And when we have the time, we will go into greater detail. Because I want St. Lucians to understand that the crisis that is ahead of us, the Labour Party cannot solve it. And I will end on this note. We are in trouble with our visas for the United States. I know a number of persons who have gone to renew their visas and they are being denied. Now, y'all can keep it quiet. But eventually, you see, there's no move to put pressure on the government by some citizens in this country who, for no reason, there's no legitimate reason why their visas have been denied. I know of an individual. I've been to the US more than 40 times. I've renewed visas. And all of a sudden, for no reason, nothing has changed. Never overstayed, nothing. Visa denied. Can you imagine that? A mother went to get her child's visa renewed. Not only did they deny the child, they took the mother's visa and cancelled it. But everybody, nobody don't want anybody to know what's happening to them, so everybody keeping it secret. I want to tell us, it is the behavior and the actions of the St. Lucia Labour Party that have St. Lucia in the crisis that it is today with visas. It is the CIP that we warned you about. It was the CIP that Martinez spoke about. It was the CIP that Alan Chasney spoke about. Dominic Fede, myself, Spider, and the members of the United Workers' Party. We told you, if the Labour Party continues down that road, all of us will be in trouble. But you didn't listen to us. Now we are beginning to feel it. And you know what? It's going to take time to fix it. But here's the solution. We know Labour Party cannot fix that problem. But we know Alan Chasney can fix the problem. Why Rubio didn't invite Pierre to the meeting? The one that was in Jamaica. When the president himself, Trump, was there, he invited Alan. So why didn't they invite Pierre? Now, if you had Alan Chasney as prime minister, Rubio would have invited him to the meeting and he would have had a word or two to say on behalf of St. Lucia. We're not only in problems in St. Lucia with the US, you know, the EU. And here's what has happened. Hillel told us the money was not ours. So now there's no Galaxy. There's no hotel. Our passports are gone and so is our money. Now I told y'all, the $50 million prison was not built in St. Kitts and Galaxy gone with the money. We had nothing about the hotel in the budget. We didn't have opening date, completion date. We didn't have nothing about the housing project being done by BMAX. But the passports were sold. So where's the money? What did Hillel tell us? Not our money. So let me ask you a question. If it is not our money, whose passport was sold? Huh? So, you want to put me on a boat and send me back to India? Because I'm not Lucian enough. But you can sell my passport to your friends in China and in Iran and everywhere else to be St. Lucians. And we in St. Lucia want to stay there, and we don't want to defend each other. But I want us to know, if we don't stand together today, tomorrow when your turn will come, there will be no one to stand with you. And so tonight, there's a lot more I can say. But I need to remind us that just as we were able to fix things that Kenny and them could not fix in 2015, 2016, the things that Philip J. Pierre and the Labour Party tell you they cannot fix, I know Alan Chasney can fix it. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Guy. A special good evening to everyone. Well, I went to collect my goodies from the budget. You know, I don't know about you, but all what they have taken from me for the last 4 years, if they give me a little bit of it back, I want it. I'm going to eat, I'm going to drink, and I'm going to put them out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my grand-aunt was a very elderly woman. She died at 97. And I value her words a lot. And she used to say to me in Creole, "Pa point rien la main moun qui ni la main sale. Pa point l'argent sale." You all know where I'm coming from? Where that $1 million come from? You know, the government keeps saying to you that they are doing well. And you all are doubting them because you're not doing well. But the government is right. They are doing well. Because when I look at my rep in Grosile, he is doing well. Certainly doing well. If you can become a multimillionaire in 3 years, you must be doing well. What has become of us in the last 3.5 years? That is the question. And so they tell you half a loaf is better than no bread. That is talk from people who had no bread. I had a bread. And now you want to tell me you're going to give me half a loaf? You're going to make me worse off than I was? Well, under Flambeau, I had a whole bread. I bring in back Flambeau to get 2 bread. Don't give me that. Well, I was about to say it, you know. No, because you see, so I'm all saying bread, I was going to say. You know, don't come with that half a loaf. We're not settling for half a loaf. We are custom with more bread under the United Workers' Party. And if you cannot multiply our bread, we have no time for you. That is why tonight I'm here to endorse the Honorable Alan Michael Chasney and his team of men and women who will form the next government come the next general election. Now, you just heard one of the deputies. You must hear the other deputy. But before, you know, I was sitting there, and when I looked across, I saw 3 gentlemen come in to sit beside me. I said, yes, my future is bright. And your future is bright as long as you do the right thing. But I looked on the other side. Rush, I didn't see you behind me. I don't have eyes behind my head. I don't have eyes behind my head. I looked on the other side and I saw a lady who will become my next parliamentary representative. And when I listened to her, I don't have to be here to hear, you know. Even if I'm not here, because I heard everything Marcella said to you. And I can tell you, that is the representative that I want a representative that will go to work to serve me and the people of Grosley, not to serve herself. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce the next speaker. You know, Guy talk about agriculture, how bad it has become. And you know, I stopped saying I'm a farmer these days because a friend of mine said to me, don't tell people you're a farmer, say you have a farm. But these days, he telling me, don't tell people you have a farm, say you have a forest. Not my fault. The Minister of Agriculture has turned all farms into forests. And so, just like the cabinet of St. Lucia, the whole country is infested with snakes. And so, when the government decides, as part of their healthcare plan, they are going to give you free care for snake bites, they know what they're talking about. Guy already told you, Philip J. Pierre is bracing himself for a king. And you know what? You all think you're all not in it too? Philip J. Pierre know what he has done to you. And you all are talking. So he's afraid. Come that day, you will do him just like a snake. But ladies and gentlemen, that is what our country has been reduced to. Our main income earner, tourism, is in a mess, dying slowly under us. You know, everything that is good is being destroyed. The other place we could have generated revenue, that was given to GPH for the next 40 years. Now, somebody said to me, you must stop saying that. Because come the next general election, when Michael Shasney and his team come in, they will put bricks on that. So we have hope. We have hope. Because you cannot tell me guaranteed revenue is just being given away to foreigners. And you talked about friends, foreigners, and whatever, what else you said? Friends, family, and foreigners. Well, you know what? We are going to bring back our true friends. The people who are true friends to St. Lucians. Because I don't know about you. I haven't tried to go to the States for a little while. Because I lied. My visa, I want them to take it. I want them to take it. Now you see, at the end of the day, everybody at my home hold a US passport except me. So you know what I said to them? Go, I'm waiting for you all. St. Lucians, it is not a joke. All of those fears that we are living in is as a result of the poor governance of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I say enough things there to scare you. Let me just say to you, the secret is, there is hope. And Joshua thought I didn't hear him earlier on. I'm going to repeat it, Joshua. They can jump high. They can jump low. The St. Lucia Labour Party must go. And come the next election, we vote in Flambeau. So, my next deputy, are you ready? Chief, we have a lot of work to do to repair tourism. And the people of ancillary canneries are crying. So, I will bring to the podium now, ladies and gentlemen. Is that a contradiction? A little giant. And so he is going to address you now, one of the men who will take the fight to the St. Lucia Labour Party. And come the next general election, he will be the next parliamentary representative for ancillary canneries. And I, the Prime Minister, so I can't pick cabinet. But I suspect he will also be the next Minister for Tourism in St. Lucia. Please welcome Dominic Fede to the podium.
Good night, good night, good night. Where is the Flambeau Warriors tonight? Where is the Flambeau Warriors tonight? We cannot go to an election like that, you know. Where are the Flambeau Warriors? Are you ready?
Now you sound like you're ready for the battlefield. Now, I am here tonight to do one simple task. And that task is to reject the manifesto disguised as a budget presentation that we have seen in the House of Assembly. My good friends of the United Workers' Party, I hope I have your approval to go to the Senate on Tuesday and vote no to the budget that has just been presented. The worst budget in the history of our country has been presented in the form of a manifesto. Now, why do I reject it? I reject it because, you see, a manifesto is a promise statement. And if this is all the Labour Party can do, high taxes, increase of debt, dwindling tourism performance, high inflation costs, and as well food prices going up everywhere, then I cannot support a government or a policy statement that subscribe to such. Now, by the way, I'm not here to talk about El Guapo tonight. But I can't help but to have noticed that after listening for hours and hours, trying to understand where the government is going, I listened to agriculture, there was nothing to say. I listened to manufacturing, there was nothing new. I listened to education, there was nothing imaginative. I listened to all the sectors, and it was the most depressing thing. And then came El Guapo, who finally came to speak after the great Alan Michael Shasney. And then he said something that I found very strange, and Guy touched on it earlier. He said that if Alan Shasney can sing the national anthem, he will give him $1 million. This was somehow supposed to prove Alan Shasney's St. Lucianness. Now I want to say to El Guapo tonight that I will sing the national anthem in Creole. I will sing it in Creole free of cost. Because you see, when it comes to El Guapo checks, you're not sure if they're going to bounce. Now, I am going to sing the national anthem in Creole, but on one condition. And that condition is, if El Guapo can sing us the song that he sang to the U.S. Embassy when he went to beg for his visa. If El Guapo can sing that, I will sing the national anthem in Creole. Now I know that El Guapo is not bankable. I know that Banker St. Lucia closes account. So I don't know where he's going to find $1 million from to pay the leader of the opposition. Mr. Leader, you were very right not to accept the challenge, because that would have been a bounce check. Now, I have a clip to play. And let me get it as quickly as possible. Listen to this clip. Kenny Anthony.
And then they come to perhaps the crowning argument. They say politicians of both parties are in it for themselves, and other people, both of them are there to enrich their pockets and to see how much money they could make. But I've always maintained, and I'll say it again, if there are politicians who leave politics, retire from politics, and they have money in their bank account, something is wrong. Something has to be wrong. And I will tell you this, Mr. Speaker, I have never had to work as hard as I am now working in my life.
Now here is Kenny Anthony, who has been Prime Minister, who has been Minister of Finance. He has been running the country for 15 years, and he's telling you, boy, this politics business is not a profitable business. Where can El Guapo get $1 million to sign it and give it to Alan Shasney as though he's just going by SNS and buy a plastic basin? Where can he get that kind of money? Where can he get that kind of money? So the fundamental question is not whether Alan Shasney can sing the national anthem. The fundamental question is where El Quapo is getting his monies from. That's the big question. Where can you just get $1 million just like that? Now, he gave us some clues. Because remember the last time he was on television, he told us that he was a very successful lawyer who defended drug dealers. He said he made money and he shared this money with lawyers, well-known lawyers in the legal fraternity. That's what he told us. He said he went to the courts and he looked for technicalities. I mean, El Quapo is so good, he even turned drugs into soap powder. This is how great he was as a criminal lawyer. And so no wonder he has $1 million just to give away. Now, more on him and how he got his money at another time. But we're here tonight to discuss the budget. Now, I want to start my presentation with a little article published in St. Lucia Times this weekend. And you should take very careful note because the IMF is really putting all of us on alert. And here is what they say. They say an IMF mission to St. Lucia has raised concerns about the accuracy of visitor expenditure data, which may be significantly overestimated due to the methodological flaws in surveys conducted by the St. Lucia Tourist Board. You heard that? The IMF is saying that they believe that the numbers for the tourism data is grossly overstated. They went on to say, the findings, part of an IMF Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance review of external sector statistics, reveal potential biases in travel export figures, with U.S. visitor spending possibly inflated by nearly 25%. Now, you heard that? So if tourism, 65% of the country's GDP, is inflated by 25%, the whole budget is inflated because the biggest financial contribution is coming from the tourism industry. So it doesn't just tell you that you shouldn't trust Hilaire. You all know that already. CIP, High Commissioner, Range Rover. The list is very, very long. Jafali. You all know that. So I don't have to tell you all that you cannot trust the tourism minister. But this tells you that you should not trust the entire St. Lucia Labour Party government because the figures are bogus. Bogus figures coming and flashing it to you, the people of St. Lucia, as though everything is okay. They're flashing it to you and they're trying to tell you that they're doing so well. And so you have to be on alert. So the IMF has said to me every single thing I need to know about the Labour Party and budgets. Case closed. Case closed. Dismiss anything they tell you. I mean, look at the Prime Minister about the unemployment numbers. He said 8.8, 8.8. He never said that, A, he was talking about 3 months of the year, 1 quarter, because when I read the economic and social review put together by the stats people, they tell me that the actual unemployment rate for last year was 10.8%. And they went to tell me further that the unemployment rate came down only because 4,000 St. Lucians are no longer looking for work, and it has nothing to do with the economic management of the Labour Party. Very important. So here is Pip saying, I'm so great, I bring down unemployment, I break records, yeah, I did that, Chasney lose, you lose, you lose, you lose. Right? You know how he likes to do it, right? You lose, you lose, you lose. Well, it turns out that the only and the biggest loser here is Philip J. Perry and the St. Lucia Labour Party. They are not fooling you, the people of St. Lucia. These are the facts presented here in the Economic and Social Review. So here's what the civil servants told us about tourism. Because my good friend Ernest Hilaire goes around and he says 2024 was a record-breaking year. We surpassed 2019. We did great things. We paved the streets of tourism with gold, he told the people. This is the best year ever. We are great, we are great. But anyways, here is what the civil servants told us. One sentence. This is on page 15 of the same book, Economic and Social Review. It reads, the total number of visitors to St. Lucia grew by 16% relative to 2023. Now, let me explain. 2023, we're still recovering from COVID. So we grew by 16%. And it goes on to say, albeit 5.5% below the pre-pandemic levels of 2019. So basically what they're saying there, Hilaire, just in case you can't read properly, they're telling you that even though last year grew by 16%, that you are still 5.5% of the pre-COVID levels of 2019. So your work of recovering the tourism sector is not over. In fact, you're way behind the rest of the Caribbean, because I can tell you that as far back as 2023, the Caribbean Tourism Organization reported that 11 other destinations already surpassed their 2019 numbers. 11 of them. And I did warn them in the parliament. I said St. Lucia is underperforming, that the Caribbean grew in 2023 by 14%, and St. Lucia could only muster 7% growth. It means that if my friends are getting 14% and I'm getting 7%, it means that I'm half of what my friends are doing. So it tells me that we're underperforming. And it shows we've lost Virgin Atlantic, gone. We've lost TUI, gone. American Airlines out of Chicago. This one breaks my heart. You know why? Because myself and the political leader, when COVID had landed its wrath on St. Lucia, with the political leader, we said this was the best crisis that we could find. Because what it did was, it gave us an opportunity. All those planes with no destinations to fly to, it gave St. Lucia the best opportunity in its life to get airlift from gateways it has never gotten before. We got American Airlines for the first time out of Chicago. We got American Airlines for the first time out of Dallas, Texas. Very crucial, the Texan market, because in Texas, Texans don't only escape the winter, but they also escape the harsh climatic conditions of the summer. And so while other American markets may pose the issue of seasonality, from Texas you had a great opportunity for year-round business, for your taxi drivers and your farmers and your Airbnbs and all of the people in the tourism value chain that needs to see the industry perform. And so this was crucial in going out there. We lift the U.S. business ahead of everyone else. We were 75% by December of that year. We opened in June of 2020. And by December of 2020, 75% of our U.S. business was back. And so believe me when I tell you that Ernest Hilaire and the St. Lucia Labour Party have done nothing revolutionary in the tourism industry to sustain the growth of the airlift and the policies left in place by your government, the United Workers' Party. Now, let's go through a few more of their numbers. In 2019, guests to hotels increase. 2024, guests to hotels increase by 3%. Cruise ships, we are 92% or 8% behind where we were in 2019. So it means that we haven't got back the cruise ship passengers yet. And that's why you notice that the taxi drivers are complaining. And they tell you, the vendors, that this is one of the worst winter season that they've had. Bagay wed, things are tough on those people who depend on the cruise ship industry for their sales and their businesses. And so it was disappointing to me to hear the Minister of Tourism said that some of the vendors, they don't have credit card machines. But he has done nothing to assist the vendors in having those point of sale systems so that when people are coming with their credit cards off the ship, that those individuals can swipe their cards and increase the sales of the vendors. The challenges we face in tourism is not going to be solved by talk. The challenges we face in tourism is going to be solved by action. And that's what the United Workers' Party is about. We have always been, and we still are, the party of action when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to tourism, when it comes to economic development. There is no political party in St. Lucia that has a better history in developing wealth and prosperity for the people of St. Lucia than the United Workers' Party. The yachting sector, very important for your farmers, very important for your taxi drivers, very crucial for your anchorages in Marigot and in Soufrière as well as all the people who are in the boatyard in Rodney Bay, who rely on this sector significantly. Your sailors, the guy who does the repairs. Unfortunately, it's not good news from the yachting sector because we're not back to the 2019 level. We are still 20% where we were in 2019 in yacht arrivals to this country. So when I tell you that Hilaire is pulling another fast one, you know they say, boy, you hear lie? Take everything he tells you with a pinch of salt as it relates to the tourism industry. The industry still has a long way to go before we can recover. Before we can recover to the 2019 years. Now, he said that he lost 500 hotel rooms. Now, if you lose 500 hotel rooms and you report a hotel occupancy of 73%, I know all of you can count. If you have $100 and you only use 73, how many dollars you have left? And so we still have 27% of our rooms in St. Lucia were empty in 2024. So Hilaire making the excuse that because you lose 500 rooms that you couldn't grow. But you had a World Cup. Your government borrowed $80 million in the year 2024. And that still couldn't save you. You still couldn't build back the industry to where it was before. A World Cup, $80 million was borrowed. I remember we all went to the house and we said, this is not a good investment, that this is going to hurt the young people of St. Lucia. I never had a World Cup, but I was growing at 10 and 11 and 12 and breaking records. Alan Chasney never had a World Cup while he was the Minister for Tourism. But we don't need World Cups. Because you see why? Because we know what we are doing. We cannot put novices in charge of the most important sector. That's your lead foreign exchange generator. That's providing 15,000 jobs. That's creating opportunities for dayboat charters and taxi drivers and restaurants and Airbnbs in St. Lucia. Over 2,700 St. Lucians are now in the home sharing business. And these people rely on the Minister of Tourism doing his job well. But when you're going to lose airlift, when you're going to lose flights back and forth, it tells me that even the airlines are losing confidence in St. Lucia. And so I want to say to you tonight that we need to right this wrong. Our country is in the hands of bad managers. The cost of living is out of control. And I don't have time to speak about the inflation rates tonight because the leader must come on and speak. But what I want to say to you tonight, UWP warriors, St. Lucia, we are in trouble. And it will take us making the most important decision in our lives in this upcoming election to save St. Lucia from the perils of El Quapo and Ernest Hilaire and Philip J. Pierre and the gang in the cabinet that continues to destroy this country. I want to say to you, have a pleasant night. And I want to say to you, I look forward to the next time when we meet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was Senator Dominic Fede. Now, I got a message here saying, Spider, sorry, but your orange wristband is showing red on TV. So please remove it. Let me see what the wristband says. The wristband says, right the wrong. And then it says, fix it. Let me fix it. You can't see nothing red on me. When we meet live, you will see my wristband back on here, orange. Ladies and gentlemen, before I call on our final speaker and before I introduce the speaker, I will have a little clip play. But I just want to say something. The SLP government has proven themselves time and again to be xenophobic, to be insular, that is people who hate foreigners, people who hate people who are born in other countries. You heard Guy talk about it. They are St. Lucian citizens. But because they were born in another country, they discriminate against them. They make all kinds of remarks about them. I will never stand for this. Now, I've made it clear before. My mother was a monstration. But she lived in St. Lucia for over 40 years. And she was as St. Lucian as any St. Lucian. My two children, who are in St. Lucia today, were born in the United States of America. And you, not more St. Lucian than they are. Where they were born, I keep saying, was decided by their parents for various reasons. But they have chosen to be St. Lucians because they have chosen to have a St. Lucian passport and to become St. Lucian citizens. And for our government to discriminate against them is shameful. And to go to the Parliament of St. Lucia, no less, and to advocate that kind of discrimination and hatred, I think it is shameful and disgraceful on the part of the government. Now, I listened during the debate on the appropriation bill, and of course, I heard El Quapo, no less, making comments about our political leader. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. He will not say it himself, but I'm going to say it again. Our political leader was born in Martinique because of medical reasons. His parents had to make a fundamental choice between life and death, and so they went to Martinique, where they were able to get the health care and services that we did not have here in St. Lucia. They came back to St. Lucia with him. He has identified himself as a St. Lucian. He carries a St. Lucian passport. He has an investment in St. Lucia. He has served St. Lucia. He keeps working for St. Lucia. Now, while our political leader is striving to bring St. Lucians a brighter day, and while he continues to toil with his team of men and women to give our people a better life, we have people like El Quapo, Richard Frederick, who was handpicked by the Prime Minister to be in his office and to talk the nonsense that he's talking both in and out of Parliament. We have him as an agent of woe and harm. And the SLP, they are all, as a team, sowing strife and discord in this country. When I listen to the rhetoric coming from the St. Lucia Labour Party, they are sowing strife and discord in this country. But I will say to you, have hope. Because he challenged the Prime Minister on the words of the national anthem and said, I said the Prime Minister, he'll soon be. I don't think I made any mistake there. He will soon be the Prime Minister. He challenged him on whether he could remember the words of the national anthem. Well, you know what? That is not of any consequence to me. That is not of any importance in the context of what we're dealing with in this country. What is important is Richard Frederick El Quapo, whether you understand the words of the national anthem. You may be able to regurgitate it. You may be able to regurgitate it, but whether you can understand the words of the national anthem. I'll just choose a couple lines for you. And I want to say to you, gone are the days when strife and discord dimmed our children's toil and rest. Those days are gone. I know you don't understand that. They are gone because come the next general election, we will surely see the dawn of a brighter day with Alan Shasney and the United Workers' Party. That is the interpretation. That is the interpretation that you should concern yourself with of our national anthem. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the destruction goes on. But you know, sometimes you have to call their own comrades to highlight their nastiness and their weaknesses. You know, they have brought Ralph Gonzalez. So can you all cue up Ralph Gonzalez for me, please? They have brought Ralph Gonzalez to St. Lucia. Almost every election, they have him in their convention and in their rallies talking nonsense, trying to tell St. Lucians what to do and what not to do. But he didn't tell them what to do or what not to do. Because while he did not go the route of CIP, St. Lucia went under the St. Lucia Labour Party. But he could, having not gone, he could have at least guided them and had told them, he could have told them to avoid the corruption that they engage in that is causing problems for our program in this country. But you know what? Let me let you hear Ralph Gonzalez in his own words for yourself.
I'm opposed to selling the passports and the citizenship in principle. I'm opposed on the grounds of practicality. I'm opposed on the grounds that it is not sustainable and that it is reckless to run your country's finances on selling passport and citizenship. No. You see the Americans under President Trump saying that has to come to an end. Yeah, Canada is the same thing. Britain, they start to say they're taking away, you have to apply for visa now from certain of those countries. And the Europeans now have put it inside of their parliament. Parliamentary committee in the European Union, Parliament has already addressed that question. It's going through the parliamentary process. It's just a matter of time. I saw it coming. It took a little longer because they give them some time to clean up. But I know that the money is so sweet for everybody. They weren't going to do any cleanup. Because if you really, really clean up, there's not a lot of money. There are so many corrupt practices involved in what I'm talking about. These companies will have figure out that they might have 2 to 3 years. They're mistaken, but they figure out that they might have 2 to 3 years. And what they will do, they will sell as many as they can, as fast as they can. Which means more vagabonds will come in. More corrupt people will come in. More money launderers will come in. More people affecting our security will come in. Because they will not be able to do the checks properly, because they want to sell as many as they can, as fast as they can. And already, even those countries who are trying to do the checks, they have a problem with those checks. We're checking out. What about, and I'm talking about some of the lawyers and some of the accountants and wannabe agents. They now will want to thief as much as they can, as fast as they can. So speed is of the essence for both of them. And what is their oxygen? Money on your backs. By taking your passport, selling it, and you wouldn't be able to get into Europe, you wouldn't be able to get into Britain, you wouldn't be able to get into America. You hear what I'm telling you? I want you to listen to me very, very carefully.
Thank you. I want you to listen to Ralph very, very carefully. Now, I don't know about you. I want to go to America. Not so much Europe, but Martinique. You know, Martinique is a part of Europe. You need a Schengen. What the Prime Minister said so. In fact, he said Martinique is located in Europe. So you need a Schengen visa to go to Martinique. These are the things that we are being deprived of because of our corrupt government. We have to put an end to that. However, ladies and gentlemen, I keep saying to you, there is hope. Because come the next general election, with the slate of candidates that I've seen from the United Workers' Party and the leadership of the United Workers' Party under Alan Michael Chasney, I want to say to you, we will sing on that day, on election day, dawns at last a brighter day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the man who will lead us to that brighter day, the next Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the Honorable Alan Michael Chasney. Please welcome him to the podium.
Thank you very much, Spider. I want to get right to business tonight. I want to continue a little bit of what Dominic spoke about. And I want you to have an appreciation of what this government is trying to get us to believe. So first of all, when I said that inflation was driving growth, and I said taxes are driving growth, and they said, oh, the numbers have been taken and inflation has been taken out of the numbers. In 2019, we had 2.7 million bed nights. I want us to understand what a bed night is. It's the number of arrivals multiplied by the average length of stay. So if you have 10 arrivals and the average length of stay is 10 nights, you're going to have 100 bed nights. Okay? So it's the number of nights that tourists are occupying any particular time. That is the most important number. Because number of arrivals means nothing. Because the average length of stay can change. So to know if you're doing well in tourism, you have to look at bed nights. Now, a person who is not in a bed, so a bed that is empty, okay? That means that the taxi driver didn't bring them there. It means that the farmer didn't feed them any food. It means that they couldn't go on a tour, right? So every time you have a wasted bed night, you're losing money. Okay? Here's what the government wants you to believe. That in 2019, we had 2.7 million bed nights. Okay? Remember now, we are in 2024. The government, we now know, we have not reached the number yet. So it means in 2024, we had 2.5 million bed nights. Okay? So 200,000 bed nights less. You understand me so far? So you had 2.7, I had 2.5, so we have 200,000 bed nights less. So that means that over the year, 200,000 room nights, the rooms were empty. And they're saying that in 2019, the 2.7 million room nights generated 2.6 billion EC dollars in revenue. But in 2024, 2.5 million room nights is producing $3.6 billion in revenue. That makes sense to you? Less room nights, and it's producing $1 billion EC dollars more in revenue. And what they're trying to tell us is that the room rate, the money that the hotels were getting for the rooms, has gone up, and that is what's generated the extra. So what do you call that? That's not inflation? What caused the prices of the room to go up? That is why the IMF has said that the change that happened was when they had COVID. Because of COVID, they stopped interviewing the people in person. And they simply were giving a questionnaire. And the World Bank is saying that since COVID has gone, they have not gone back to the old way of taking the information. And so they are now questioning the validity of the information. But if you are a minister of tourism and if you are a minister of finance and somebody produces that report in front of you, and Tommy knows that when they came to my meetings at finance, I asked every question. I want to know in detail how we got to a particular number. Nobody would ever be able to convince me that 2.5 million room nights can produce 1 billion EC dollars more in revenue. In fact, 1/3 more, 33% more revenue than less room nights. Not possible. The same can be said for manufacturing. They said in manufacturing, listen to this, that alcohol production in 2019 was $90 million. And today they want to say that alcohol production is $300 million. See, that is where I'm like Sir John. And I learned from him. But I also learned from my father. Because my father told me, don't trust numbers. Go see for yourself. We have 2 companies producing alcohol in St. Lucia. That's it. There's 2 phone calls, Hey, to the brewery, I see that your production has gone up almost by 300% between 2019 today. They said, no. They said our production has gone the same, but the prices have gone up. So we're not producing anymore. I called the distillery. The distillery said, no. What they have is they have wine, they have rum in the cases, but they have not sold that rum. Right? So you see what I'm saying to you? Is when you're the Minister of Finance, or you're the Prime Minister of this country, every detail matters. During COVID, when we had 5 healthcare centers, I didn't stay in my office. I went to the offices to see what was going on. The same Stevenson King, who was my minister at the time, His healthcare center was 100 yards away from his office. You all know that, right? 100 yards. When I went there, no chairs, no fans, no temperature gauges, computer not working. I went to Johnson's and bought all the stuff out of my pocket to bring to his own healthcare center. And the nurses who know that they were there, and the computer department that I called up and told them, I want the computer, a new computer there this afternoon, and I'm passing by first thing in the morning. And if there's not a new computer there, hell will become to pay. Why? Because they're having to enter all the information and the computer is sticking all the time. Already, the nurses that were working there were taking a chance and working for us, and we're making their job harder. That doesn't make sense. So you have to be able to follow up in the level of details when you're governing this country. Everybody who was in a cabinet with Sir John, when you came to a cabinet meeting with Sir John and he asked you a question, 1,000% he already knew the answer. He was just checking to see if you knew the answer. All those people that thought that he was at Maho, right? Boy, Sir John all over the island. He knew what was coming up in cabinet. He would physically go and see every road, every project that was being done. He went to see for himself. That is why the country grew under United Workers' Party and Sir John Compton. It is important to understand some statistics. And I know people tell me, boy, PM, don't bring up numbers, right? People fall asleep at numbers. But I'm telling all of us solutions, we must know the numbers. If we don't know and we don't understand the numbers, people are going to continue to fool us every day. People talk about borrowing money. Okay? You can borrow money. But the problem is if you don't pay back the money you borrow. Or the problem is if you're borrowing more money than you're earning. Okay? So in the statistics, the simplest number to understand is how much money is being added to our debt. That's the number. Because after all the, what's he called? Flashing mirrors. After all the flashing mirrors, that is the number that matters the most. After I've borrowed money, I've invested the money's generated a return, am I making enough money to cover all of my expenses and to cover the money that I borrowed? That's the most important part. So 2016 to 2019, 4 years, 16, 17, 18, and 19. The overall deficit was under $100 million every year. Meaning, after we ran the government, we paid all our interest payments, etc., we were only had an overall surplus of a little bit less than $100 million. So it means that each year, we added to the public debt, the debt stock, we call it, $100 million a year, on average. When COVID came, in 2 years, 2020 and 2021, imagine this, we added $730 million to our debt stock. Listening to me? So remember they told you that I got money from the IMF and from the World Bank, and we were supposed to use that money to help people? That money just was enough to pay salaries. We had to find other ways to generate money. But we increased the debt of the country $730 million. Okay? 2022 to 2024, 3 years. We've recovered from COVID. Everything is going. Money is flowing. Planes are coming in. Things are moving. Listen carefully. The government has added $900 million to the debt stock in the last 3 years. 900 million, $300 million a year. And the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance wants to boast about what a great job he's doing. Okay? Now listen to me carefully. So it means he has increased the debt by $300 and something million. Put that in perspective. Every single day, they're adding $1 million to the debt stock. So every day, the government of St. Lucia is spending $1 million more than they're earning. You follow me? And it's added to the debt stock. That's for your children to pay. Okay, because remember what Philip here told you. He's not going to live that much longer, so he really doesn't care. Okay? That's somebody else's problem down the road. So in addition to $300 million in additional tax revenue, that he had to do nothing. All that happened was the prices of the products coming into St. Lucia went higher. He kept the duty rate the same. The government of St. Lucia made more money. They added on the 2.5% tax. They kept the VAT rate at the same level. Doing nothing, no changes, the government of St. Lucia generated $300 million more in taxes. In 5 years, United Workers' Party sold 850 citizenships. You hear me? In 5 years, we sold 850 citizenships. The Labour Party so far has sold or allocated 35,000 passports. So imagine how much more money they were supposed to have earned in doing that. So they have a bonanza with CIP. You have found wealth in taxation. And yet, you're increasing the debt by $350 million. Tommy's here. I'm going to tell you how a United Workers' Party would have looked at it. If the prices internationally went up, we would have said there's two things we can do. Leave the taxes where they are, because we don't believe the prices were going to stay there forever. But the extra tax revenue that we would have earned, we would have put it aside as savings. And we'd have kept running the government on the money we were running on before. Or we would have said, reduce the rates and pass on the savings to the people of St. Lucia, so they would have more ching, ching, ching in their pockets. Because United Workers' philosophy, I heard Kenny Anthony talking about the difference between United Workers' Party and Labour. And he talked about trickle-down theory. United Workers' Party has never believed in the trickle-down. United Workers' Party believes that the money in people's pocket, that they do a better job of making decisions than the government does. And United Workers' Party believes in doing things to allow our businesses and our people to be more competitive, and an open market to help that, but we also believe in the bottom up. So he also said something that I want us to listen to, because he was right. He said it was the Labour Party that brought bananas to St. Lucia. Now, I told you that that's when Sir John was part of the Labour Party. And he fought to make sure we got out of sugar and to take back control of the lands to give it to small farmers. And he was with the Labour Party when they did that. And he left the Labour Party because he could not convince George Charles and the rest of the Labour Party to develop the country. The fight for them was over, right? The plantation guys were gone. The slave masters were gone. We were now in control. But Sir John said, no, the battle has just begun. We have to put infrastructure into the land. Small farms, feeder roads, water. We have to develop our communities with schools and roads. And he had a vision for this country. And that vision worked. And many St. Lucians today continue to benefit from what Sir John did. He didn't take it easy. The Causeway, Rodney Bay Marina, schools, healthcare facilities, Millennium Highway, Point Seraphim. And that's what I said to Kenny. I wasn't being malicious. I said, you came here today and you're giving us a history as if you want somebody to recognize your legacy. I said, when you came in 1997, I was with Kenny, like many other St. Lucians, because I had lost confidence in United Workers' Party because there was no succession planning taking place. And we all know that. Vaughan Lewis, who had confidence in Vaughan Lewis? So there were good things United Workers' Party did, but one thing they did not do is by the time 1997 came, there was no succession plan. I want you all to know, Alan Shastney is not going to prevent good people from coming into this party and for good people to succeed Alan Shastney. We have a bunch of men and women, all of them are prime ministerial material. Every single one of them. And the next leader of the United Workers' Party will emerge and we will all know who that person is. But I promise you this, that's not Alan Shastney's decision to make. That is the people of St. Lucia who must make that decision. And I tell all the people who are candidates for United Workers' Party, prove yourself. Take care of the people. Show them that you're a leader and they will support you. But it's not for me or for anybody else to tell them who they are, but it's our job to make sure that the door is open for every young person who has leadership skills to come into United Workers' Party because their ideas will not be suppressed. Their ambition will not be suppressed. So I said to Kenny, the real legacy would have been in 1997 is if you built the cruise ship terminal in Vieux Fort. Imagine if in 1997 that he had taken a page out of Sir John's book. In 1981, Sir John built Point Seraphim. Imagine if he built a Point Seraphim in Vieux Fort, where Vieux Fort would be today. The Labour Party sold everything to GPH and wants to stand up in the House and to tell you all, hey, we're working on a plan to build a cruise ship terminal in Vieux Fort. No, it's a lie. Because you have to listen to what he said. I want you all to go back and listen to it for yourself, you know. He said, we're talking to the cruise ship companies to build a cruise ship berth in Vieux Fort. But the contract that we have with GPH gives them the first right of refusal. And then he said, I'm convinced that they will do a better job. So which cruise ship company is going to come and put the time in to develop a plan for View Fort, knowing that GPH has the first right of refusal? You don't hear nonsense? But it's the arrogance of anyone to believe that they could lie so bold-facedly to the people of St. Lucia and that some people will believe them. You coming now to tell the people that? How many times have we asked you, what does the contract say about View Fort? Why are we not hearing anything about View Fort? If in fact you had plans for View Fort, the next day they should have come out and said, don't worry, the people in View Fort, we have plans for you. Here are the people. When they come down, I'll introduce you to them. Let me show you the drawings. You have seen nothing. You have heard nothing. These are just words. Empty promises. Now there's two things specifically. A constituent of mine called it disco lights. That's what he called the promises. Guy Joseph called it, was it? Higher purchase. No, that's right. Here's what is going to go on. He's going to give you the money today. But if you re-elect him, he's going to take it back just as fast. That's just, higher purchase is courts, you know. All of y'all know what that is. Okay? You go and buy a refrigerator, right? No money down, everything's sweet. The thing arrived there, 1 month for free. Buy my air conditioner, right? When the first bill come, second bill come, and a big sale, you're doing everything, but because you really love that fridge, you know. I love that fridge. But by the time the third month come and you can't pay, right? They have some fellas arrive in a truck. They don't even ask you anything, you know. Break down the door and take the fridge, and the fridge gone. If y'all make the mistake and elect Labour Party, that's exactly the money they're giving you today. They're coming to take it back right after the elections. Right afterwards. Now, they're making promises about Proud. Oh, we're going to revamp Proud, right? Make Proud better. They're the ones who started Proud. Huh? And Proud, for those of you who don't know, was an agency to help rationalize land. So all the people who were squatting on their land was to go in and make it that you can give the people the land, the ownership of the land. Sorry? They said they closed it down. They said anybody going to start a new program. All of that is to buy time. Oh, we're getting a new organization. They had an organization, you know. Richard. But I went back and I read all of the reports of Parliament. Every year, Auger and a place in View Fort North, they've been promising for 4 years they're going to rationalize land. Then they come with the disco lights and tell them, oh, we're going to go and fix these places. Let me tell you how that works. Because the poor people in my constituency in Alger have been waiting for over 20 years. Okay? I made it a promise of mine I was going to get this resolved. I was Prime Minister, Minister of Finance. Now, if it was as easy to go into Cabinet and say in Cabinet, hey, you see that land? We're just going to give the land to the people. That would be easy. But you see, it's not that. Because to go and give them the land, we have what's a thing called Development Control Authority, of which there is a land planning. And with DCA says that the minimum size lot that a person can have is 5,000 square feet. Okay? Because you have to have a septic tank, you have to have this, you have to have that. So 5,000 square feet is the minimum size. When I was in Soufrière and we were doing a place in Mocha after the hurricane, can't find 5,000 square feet. So what we did is we built one septic tank for everybody to share. And then we agreed to build a car park. So it reduced the amount to 3,500 square feet. But the land has to be divided where there's roads and access, so in case there's a fire, okay, they can access there. People have to be able to come in and out of their home. So it's not just so simple as saying, I'm going to give you the land. You must spend the money on the land to put the septic tank systems. You must put proper piping for the water. You must put proper electricity. Chico was here, the boulevard. Everybody connecting to this person's meter and asking permission of each other if they can pass the thing over their home, right? And then when they get vexed, they just okay? And you can't go and complain to anybody because you know you're getting the thing illegally because there's nobody to complain about. But that is what Proud is supposed to do. So to do the lots in Azure, I'm going off the top of my, I think it was like 80 lots, was $4.5 million. So when a man come and tell you on the eve of election that he's going to do this thing with Proud, right? And you're going to have a new entity and he's going to make this thing happen. That's just empty promises. That's bluff. Okay? The second bluff is that they told you, and I listened to Wayne Gerard, they're going to reduce the airport tax for travel interregionally. I want you to listen to what Wayne said, He said, this is going to be a great thing because all the Airbnbs now are going to be able to sell more, the taxi drivers, because there's going to be more business coming in and this and that. As Guy said, when people call themselves little boys and they're still peeing in their pants, that's what we get. So let me tell you how that works. When we came into government, we changed the airport tax and we divided the airport tax in two levels: international travel and regional travel. We looked at what the lowest rate in the rest of the region was, and it was $60. So I said, no problem, we will charge $60 for interregional travel. And the day the other governments in the region want to bring it to 25, or they want to bring it to 0, St. Lucia is ready. But what St. Lucia is not going to do is to lower its rate and everybody else keeps their rate high. And it's a simple question. Have they worked out with the airlines that if they decrease the tax, that the airline is going to pass that savings on to you? How much you want to bet that the airfare doesn't change? And the airline just holds that money in their pocket. Where's the marketing strategy? That's a bluff. That's a bluff. And that's why we call it, he was so right, disco lights. That's just to fool you. Now, I see them telling me 5 minutes, but can I get 5 minutes or you really is 5 minutes? I want to just for a minute read something for you. And I want to say to all of us, we are not taking this CIP thing seriously. We're taking this thing for a pappy show. It is not. What Comrade Ralph said is right. Okay? And the proof is right before our very eyes. And our silence is consent. As long as we remain silent on this issue, my people, the money is going to continue to go. I said in the House that the Prime Minister has admitted that he has terminated the contracts between Galaxy and BMAX. And he has suspended the programs. Okay? And I said, because you've done that, it has now created a financial exposure to all of us. I want to explain to you what I mean by that. Remember Jack Reinberg? Okay? And we signed the lease and gave him the right to go and get the oil in our seabeds. And when we took away the contract for him, he sued the state because he said he had a contract and there was oil and we didn't give him the opportunity to earn the money that he was supposed to earn. And that court case cost us millions of dollars. Millions. And up to today, we don't know if we have oil. Nobody knows. So he was basing his argument on nothing. But today, we do know. So the government is trying to say to us that when they signed the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement with the other islands, that created a problem with the contract with BMAX and Galaxy. Here's what Galaxy said. It's a letter that Galaxy wrote to the CIP unit. They said, 1, contrary to the suggestions in your letter. So in the letter they wrote to Galaxy, they asked Galaxy, because the price had gone from 100,000 to 250,000, would Galaxy agree to reduce the number of files they have? Because they're going to be making extra money. They asked Galaxy to either decrease the files or increase the amount of money that the government was going to borrow from them. So the government was borrowing $100 million. And they said, when you sell now the passports, the citizenship, instead of you collecting the money yourself, can you agree now to send the money to the CIP unit, which is what should have been from day one. So it says, contrary to the suggestions of your letter, 1, there is no obligation on the part of Galaxy to increase its funding of the project as a result of the proposed increase of the minimum charges to $250,000. Likewise, there is no contractual right on the part of the government of St. Lucia to insist upon such an increase. So what does that mean? Galaxy was given 6,000 files at $100,000 a file. When they signed the MOA, the value now went up to $250,000. So instead of Galaxy getting $600 million in exchange for lending the government of St. Lucia $100 million, now Galaxy is going to get $1.5 billion. You hear me? The 6,000 files are now worth $1.5 billion. And Galaxy is lending us $100 million. So it means that Galaxy gets to sell for $1.5 billion, take $100 million and give it to us, right? And walk away with $1.4 billion. 2, there is no ability on the part of the government of St. Lucia to reduce the number of shares to be provided pursuant to the agreement. As such, the government of St. Lucia remains committed to giving Galaxy the 6,000 shares. Now, they say something, and I want to read it because it's so important. And it's for us to understand the language. It says, importantly, the payment of monies following the sale of these shares was not to be held in escrow. That's in the contract. The money was not to go into an escrow account. Instead, it was to be held for Galaxy's account. So instead, the $100,000 and the administrative fee, all that money was to go into Galaxy's account. Okay? Here's the part. I want you to understand how your patrimony is being treated. Because what we're not understanding is the only thing that the government of St. Lucia has had to do to generate this money is to print a passport. That's the only work they've had to do. And they've underestimated the value of that passport. You want to come and question whether I'm a St. Lucian, as Guy said, but meanwhile, simply a man paying money and getting a passport makes him St. Lucian. Because that's what we're saying. The only thing that's going to make you St. Lucian now is a passport. Okay? Hear what they said. The quid pro quo was that Galaxy's payment of monies for the purposes of the project was not dependent upon the sale of the shares. What does that mean? It means we gave you the $100 million and you just gave us 6,000 fouls. What we do with the 6,000 fouls is our business, not your business. Quid pro quo means an understanding that I'm going to give you $100 million and you're going to give me 6,000 fouls. Further, instead of reducing the number of shares, because remember I told you they asked them to reduce the shares, the government of St. Lucia is contractually required to provide additional shares to the government of St. Lucia to compensate it for the increase in the administrative fee that went from 30,000 to 50,000. So the point I was making in the House, I want us to understand this. Any expenditure that the government is going to undertake can only happen, only if Parliament approves it. If Parliament does not approve you spending money, you cannot spend the money. And I said, there's no way that the government of St. Lucia, who has 15 seats in the House, is ever scared that whatever they bring to the House will not be approved. True? Any bill that they bring to the House, they're going to pass it. So the issue is not whether, in fact, the bill is going to be passed. So what would be the reason why you don't want to bring the bill to the House? Because they don't want you, the people, to know. I want you to understand. I want that to sink in. The only reason they've not brought it to the House is because they don't want you to know. And the question I was asking is based on their terminating the contract and based on Galaxy's response, which is to say, I don't believe you have the right to terminate the contract. It creates what we call in legal terms an obligation. An obligation. They're going to go to court. And unlike Grindberg, where we did not know an amount, we now know what the amount is. $1.5 billion US dollars. And the question I was asking, if you've done all this and you did it already, have you anticipated what that cost is going to be? And why is it you've not come to Parliament to say to Parliament that there's an exposure, there's a potential obligation? I don't know how much it's going to be. We'll wait for the court case. But there's going to be an obligation in where the state may have to pay $1 billion, 1.5 billion, maybe more, because the company can say, I'm suffering the embarrassment of what you did because I have an obligation. And I want us to understand how much more serious it is. The government has admitted that 3,000 families have already applied, paid Galaxy, paid the lawyers. You heard what Ralph said about the lawyers. Not me, Ralph. Okay? That's what he said about the lawyers. The oxygen is the money, and to sell it fast. 3,000 people have already paid, families have already paid the lawyers. They paid the due diligence fees. So there's an expectation now that they're going to get their citizenship. So when you say that you've terminated the program, sorry, not terminated, suspended the program and terminated the contract, what happens to their money and to their passport? Who do you think they're going to sue? Absolutely, because you know what Galaxy is going to say? We had a contract. It's the government that came and suspended the program and terminated the contract. The person you have to go after is the people of St. Lucia. When Ralph talked about it is going to be on your backs, that's what he's talking about. All of us need to really wake up and understand what is taking place in this country. And I have not even gotten into what's going on at the hotel. But between this contract and the hotel contract, my people, $3 billion US dollars, 8 billion EC dollars. Do you understand? And that money is real. That money is the passports that they are printing. And then once they have that passport, they can vote in St. Lucia. And we're not scared. And anybody is even contemplating re-electing the Labour Party back into government. Well, I'm going to say this to all of us. We cannot allow the Labour Party to have the elections next year. We have to have elections in this country as soon as possible. But thinking that is not going to be enough. Speaking in your household or whispering, boy, I can't wait for elections because I'm going to take these people out, is not enough. If we don't stand together and stand up to this government, there'll be nothing left. Absolutely nothing left. Tuesday night, we're going to be doing a show to celebrate the 100th birthday of Sir John. It's amazing to me that a man who has done so much, that this key date, and we waited as a party, you know, we waited to see who was coming forward to recognize his 100th birthday. We're on the eve of that day. It's on Tuesday. You heard anybody say anything? Have you all heard one person in government or anywhere else? All these people who profess they love Sir John, how great Sir John was. Well, we're not going to allow that date to go by. Not only as Flabbos, but at this point, Sir John is no longer just a Flabbo. He is the father of our nation. He is the father of our nation. And we want to do a special ceremony, if I'm not mistaken, in front of his statue. Have you decided the time? When is that going to be? On the Tuesday. So Tuesday morning, for those who want to show their appreciation and their respect to this man, giant of a man, who helped so many people in this country. If you want to show your respect, I'm asking all of you to come out and be there where we can lay the wreath and say some words. And then we're going to dedicate a show, I think it's from 8 o'clock at night. Am I right? 6 o'clock, but you come in at 8. Okay, 6 o'clock, but I come in at 8. On Tuesday night, where we're going to be celebrating and recognizing all the incredible work that Sir John has done. But I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to end on this note. This is a great country. These are challenging times. Okay? We need a group of people that put self or put country before self. And I'm satisfied that priority number one in selection of our candidates was persons that did that, but more importantly, had already a proven track record, have done it, okay, and are committed to being part of a team. Touch one, Touch one? Touch one? Okay. And that's why this election, it's not about who made a mistake in voting. That's not the issue. The issue is what we see now, and it's time for us to right the wrong. And the way that you can play your part is to vote Labour Party out and give this new group of leadership in United Workers' Party an opportunity to right the wrong for you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from our political leader and next Prime Minister of St. Lucia. So, as we come to an end, let me just read a couple notices for you. Well, the Honorable Alan Chasney just told you about Tuesday. Yes, Mr. Chairman? Okay, we'll be having the laying of the reef at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. That is for Sir John's 100th birthday. And I also want to announce that our candidate for Grosile, Mrs. Marcella Johnson, will be having the opening of her constituency office, and that is located across from Harbour Club. Once you get to the area there, you'll see the place. It's behind where they had the medical university, the building behind it. She will be having an enthusiastic, energetic session there taking place. And so let us all gather with her. And I just want to announce too that will there be a meeting in the evening? A public meeting in the evening. So we are inviting every one of you. It is a special date, the opening of her office, and subsequently we will be having a public meeting. So please join us. There will be entertainment, and of course, we will continue delivering the message of the United Workers' Party, the message of hope, and the message of bringing St. Lucia back to prosperity. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, they have taken care of themselves for the last 4 years. They want you to continue to support them and keep them in office. They want you to protect the victory that has done so well for them. And so now they're going to be giving you some of the crumbs of what they have accumulated over the years. Take it, but be sure that you vote them out of office. So, I know I can count on you to do that, but be sure that your friends, your family, your relatives, everybody is registered. See the voter. Now, you see, Marcella is opening her office on the 1st of May. The office is not just there for style, you know. You can go there. There will be voters lists there. You can find out where it is you're registered, and that is the case for every constituency. Find out if your name is on the list. Be sure that your relatives, your friends, your children, who, especially those who will be voting for the first time, ensure that they are registered, because we are taking no chances. And those of you, in addition to the workers at the various constituency offices, please scrutinize the list, those of you who can, so that if you see Spider-Man Tooth Labry, you know that there's something wrong. There's something wrong. So that we can ensure that the moving of votes around the place does not take place once again, because that is one of the strategies that they're going to use. We are going to be vigilant. We are going to be on point this time around to prevent any stealing of this general election, because this is the most important general election of our modern history, and we have to ensure that we do the right thing to right the wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you. Oh, yes, please, we want to remind you that Fire FM is on the air, and you can tune in. It is 107.7. 107.7. You know, I have not made my debut on Fire FM yet, you know. But on Tuesday, I will be there. And after that, you will hear me. I want you to support the activities of the United Workers' Party. Now, let me just say this before we go. You all who are after us, let us hear the plans, let us hear the plans, let us hear the plans. The United Workers' Party started articulating their plans. You realize they have started stealing our plans? But it doesn't matter because the only people who can properly implement the plan are the architects of the plan. So, when they talk about for the first time, Beatties, unprecedented Beatties, we are the ones who put pressure on them. So let me just say thank you, UWP. I will now have my passport for 10 years because of your pressure. And remind them that they're not doing you any favors because in the first place, they are the ones who took it from 10 years and put it 5 years. So they're not doing us any favor. And I heard one of them say that they are going to stop, or they stopped property taxes. I can tell you that, we spent 5 years in office and we never charged $1 of property taxes. They are the taxation government. We are the government for the people. So ladies and gentlemen, stick with the party that is for you and do what you have to do to ensure that your party gets back in power. Thank you and have a good night. Thanks for all of you who are listening on live stream. And we ask you to join Spider-Man tomorrow night.
Life in St. Lucia has become unbearable. Every day, we feel the crushing weight